Before the histories, we know another story was ending. A story of a civilization that mastered stone stars and perhaps even consciousness itself. Plato called it Atlantis. Others gave it different names. But what if it was real? What if the great pyramids, the colossal stones of Baalbek, and the myths of a great flood are not separate mysteries, but the fragmented legacy of this one catastrophic event? We are searching for the mother culture, the ground zero of human genius, and the wisdom they left behind. From the ruins of the ancient palace at Knossos on the island of Crete emerged one of the most haunting symbols of the Bronze Age world, a woman carved in radiant faience holding serpents that twist like living veins of power. Her waist is impossibly narrow, her chest exposed in fearless confidence, her eyes wide as if she is seeing something beyond the world of mortals. She has no name, she has no inscription. Yet her presence has survived for over 3.5 millennia, outlasting the empire that built her and defying every attempt to define who or what she truly was. This is the mystery of the Minoan snake goddess. What do you think? Was the Minoan snake goddess a real deity, once worshipped, or merely a symbol misunderstood? Through thousands of years of history, share your thoughts in the comments below. At the turn of the 20th century, British archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans began excavating the ruins of Knossos Palace, the grand labyrinthine complex often associated with the legend of the Minotaur. Amid the layers of ash and broken pottery, he uncovered 2 small statues, unlike anything else found in the Aegean. They depicted women of striking beauty and poise, each holding serpents that coiled along their arms and shoulders. Their surfaces shimmered in blue-green glaze, a material known as faience, previously thought to be unique to Egypt. Evans called them snake goddesses and immediately identified them as divine figures, possibly priestesses or deities of fertility and household protection. But from that moment, debate exploded. Was Evans projecting his own Victorian imagination onto these enigmatic figures? Were these goddesses even complete? Modern researchers discovered that much of their form had been reconstructed from fragments, sometimes with heavy artistic interpretation. The statues might be part ancient reality, part modern fantasy. The snakes held by the goddess are among the most debated elements. In ancient symbolism, snakes were paradoxical. They represented both life and death, healing and poison, rebirth and destruction. She could therefore embody nature's duality, the endless cycle of decay and regeneration. In Minoan art, serpents also appear on household altars, suggesting that they were not evil, but protectors of the home. In that light, the snake goddess may have been a guardian figure, a divine matron who watched over families and fields. Yet her calm expression and erect posture convey something far greater than domestic comfort. Her gaze seems to pierce through time itself, commanding respect and awe. Was she merely a priestess of ritual, or was she the living embodiment of a cosmic feminine power? What makes the Minoan snake goddess so astonishing is how radically she differs from the religious imagery of later patriarchal societies. Unlike the gods of Greece or Mesopotamia, the Minoan deity appears to center female energy, the power of fertility, emotion, and wisdom as the supreme force of creation. Her bare breasts were not meant to sexualize, but to celebrate motherhood, abundance, and nature's vitality. Her wide layered skirt, meticulously patterned, shows a level of artistry rarely matched in that era. To many historians, this figure symbolizes a time when women may have held spiritual authority. The Minoan world, flourishing between 2000 and 1450 BCE, might have been matrilineal, or at least matrifocal, where goddesses presided over temples and priestesses led rituals. If true, then the snake goddess represents not just a deity, but an entire worldview, one where the feminine principle was sacred and dominant. The statues are made from faience, a lustrous glazed ceramic long associated with ancient Egypt. Its presence on Crete opens a troubling question. Did the Minoans learn this technique through trade, or did they invent it independently? Chemical analyses suggest both possibilities. If trade was involved, it implies a deep connection between the Minoan and Egyptian civilizations, sharing not only goods but religious concepts. Perhaps the snake goddess is a fusion, part Isis, part Astarte, part local Earth Mother. Her serpents might echo the Egyptian uraeus, the cobra, on pharaohs' crowns, symbols of divine authority and protection. Was she an imported goddess adapted into Minoan faith, or a uniquely Cretan creation that happened to parallel distant traditions? The absence of inscriptions leaves the question open. The statues were found in what Evans called the temple repository's rooms beneath the palace floor, filled with ceremonial objects, ivory figurines, miniature animals, shells, and votive offerings. These items suggest a ritual context, but the nature of the rituals is unknown. Were these goddesses used in fertility ceremonies, spring festivals, or funerary rites? Archaeologists discovered traces of ash, hinting that fire might have played a role, perhaps symbolizing purification or transformation. The snake goddess could have presided over rituals meant to renew the earth, restore balance, or summon rain. Yet without written records, every theory remains speculation. The Minoans had a script Linear A, but it has never been deciphered. The silence of their words deepens the mystery. Beyond her religious context, the snake goddess also stands as a triumph of early human art. Her proportions are strikingly modern, slender, symmetrical, and full of dynamic grace. Her pose, with elbows bent and serpents raised, creates a visual rhythm that almost feels alive. Every fold of her dress, every curve of her hair seems to pulse with energy. Such sophistication challenges assumptions about the so-called primitive Bronze Age. The Minoans possessed an aesthetic sensibility that rivaled later classical art, and their attention to detail suggests not only skill, but deep spiritual intention. The artist was not merely depicting a woman, but channeling something divine through form. In many interpretations, the snake goddess is considered an earth mother, a deity of fertility, vegetation, and life cycles. The serpents shedding their skin symbolize rebirth. Her body mirrors the fertile land of Crete itself. Fertile valleys, coiled hills, and rivers winding like snakes to the sea. She might have been the heart of Minoan religion, ensuring harvests and protection. Others, however, see her as something darker, a mediator between life and the underworld. The snakes could be spirits of the dead or emblems of hidden wisdom. This duality, nurturing yet dangerous, gives the statue its hypnotic power. The Minoan civilization vanished mysteriously around 1450 BCE, likely due to a combination of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and invasions. Their palaces fell silent, their language was lost, and their gods were forgotten. The snake goddess, once perhaps the center of worship, was buried under rubble for thousands of years. When she re-emerged in the early 1900s, she became a ghostly messenger from a world that no longer spoke. Her calm smile, her serpentine companions, all of it became a riddle from a forgotten faith. To this day, archaeologists and historians remain divided. Some believe she was a household deity, a protector of the home and fertility. Others claim she represents a high goddess equivalent to later deities like Hera or Demeter. A few even question if she was divine at all, perhaps a ritual figurine of a mortal priestess immortalized in clay to symbolize human connection with the sacred. Her exposed chest may not symbolize sexuality, but a sign of purity, of truth revealed. Her snakes may not threaten, but empower. Each detail can be read in a dozen ways, none definitive. Every generation of scholars reinvents her meaning, yet no one has reached her essence. This is where the story transcends archaeology and enters the realm of timeless mystery. The Minoan snake goddess stands as a mirror reflecting whatever we seek to find in her. To some, she is Eve before the fall, holding serpents not in shame, but in mastery. To others, she is the primal mother, the heartbeat of the earth, long before gods of thunder took her place. Yet despite every theory, she remains nameless. No inscription calls her by title. No myth preserves her deeds. She exists only in silence, in the cold gleam of faience, as if guarding a truth humanity was not meant to know. Was she a goddess of life, a mistress of death, or the embodiment of both? Was she the last echo of a world ruled by women, or a myth reimagined by the hands of men? Centuries later, every possibility opens a door to wonder, and every door leads to a deeper void. In her gaze, the Minoan snake goddess seems to whisper across time that power and mystery often hide behind the veil of what we cannot name. Perhaps that is her true legacy, not in what she represents, but in how she refuses to be defined. Hidden beneath the windswept dunes of Orkney, Scotland, lies one of the best-preserved Neolithic settlements on Earth, Skara Brae. Over 5,000 years old, it predates both the pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge. Yet despite its age, the village still feels startlingly human, a place of warmth, intimacy, and mystery. Inside these stone homes, frozen in time by sand and sea, stands an object that has puzzled archaeologists for generations, a rectangular structure made of flat slabs, positioned directly opposite the entrance in every single house. Modern scholars call it the dresser. But was it truly a piece of furniture, or something far more sacred? Were the Skara Brae dressers just ordinary shelves or sacred altars connecting the living and the dead? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Each house in Skara Brae follows an almost ritualistic blueprint, a hearth at the center, 2 stone beds on either side, and the dresser placed directly in front of the door. Whoever entered would see it first. Its location alone demands attention. It is not hidden or tucked away, but proudly displayed as though it held symbolic power. In a time when architecture reflected belief rather than comfort, this placement suggests intention, perhaps even reverence. The people of Skara Brae were not chaotic cave dwellers. They were organized, artistic, and deeply spiritual. The dresser may have been their most personal altar, the heart of both home and faith. When archaeologists first uncovered these structures in the mid-19th century, they assumed the dressers were simple shelves, perhaps for storing tools or food. But that interpretation quickly began to crumble. In several houses, small decorative objects, beads, carved stones, and fragments of bone were found near or upon these dressers. None of these were everyday items. They were delicate, symbolic, and sometimes made of rare materials not native to Orkney. Some even appeared deliberately arranged. Why would functional storage occupy such a central ceremonial position, visible to anyone entering the home? Why repeat the same design across every household if it were merely practical? A new idea began to emerge. The dresser was not a cupboard, but a shrine, a place where the people of Skara Brae displayed the things they held, sacred relics of ancestors' charms of protection, or objects of worship tied to unseen spirits. Its stone shelves could have supported carved idols or bone effigies, representing gods, family totems, or even deceased relatives. The glow of the hearth would have cast flickering light on these items, turning them into living silhouettes in the dim interior, a private ceremony replayed each night. This theory fits neatly within the broader Neolithic worldview. Across Europe, from the passage graves of Newgrange to the temples of Malta, we see evidence of domestic ritual, the merging of life and belief. In that world, there was no separation between religion and daily routine. The home was both shelter and sanctuary. Each fire, lit at dusk, was both warmth and offering. Each meal, a renewal of gratitude. The dresser standing opposite the fire may have symbolized the eternal balance between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. The door framed the outside world life-nature community, while the dresser marked the inner sanctum, where ancestors watched over their descendants. Archaeologists have also noted the meticulous symmetry of the houses: left bed for one gender, right bed for another, hearth for life, dresser for spirit. These alignments were not random. The Neolithic mind viewed space as sacred geometry, each element representing a force of existence. The dresser's position, mirroring the doorway, may have created a symbolic dialogue every visitor entered under the gaze of the ancestors, acknowledging the household's lineage and belief. It is no accident that no house in Skara Brae lacks one. It was not furniture, it was doctrine carved in stone. Some researchers have proposed that the dresser also functioned during rituals of passage, birth, death, and initiation. A newborn might have been laid briefly upon its surface to be introduced to the household spirits. A deceased member's possessions might have been displayed there before burial. The dresser could have been both altar and memorial, a physical link between generations. The discovery of human bones, animal remains, and small symbolic carvings nearby supports this view. And yet there remains a counterpoint. Perhaps it was both sacred and functional. The people of Skara Brae were pragmatic. Their lives were intertwined with the harsh northern environment. The dresser could have stored precious items not for convenience, but for protection and display, much as modern families display heirlooms or photographs. It could have represented identity, the face of the home. Each family may have arranged their dresser differently, telling silent stories through shells, stones, and symbols. To outsiders, it was decoration. To them, it was memory. Another compelling clue lies in the uniformity of these dressers. If they had purely practical use, variation would be expected. But every single one adheres to the same proportions and position. This points to a shared belief system, a cultural rule embedded in architecture. The dresser was likely a manifestation of cosmology, a symbolic axis, anchoring each home to a greater spiritual order. In many ancient traditions, altars face east, toward the rising sun, the source of renewal. Could Skara Brae's orientation hold similar significance? Some houses indeed align subtly with cardinal directions, suggesting a connection between domestic space and the heavens above. Even more mysterious is the absence of any definitive carvings or writings that could confirm its purpose. The Neolithic people left no texts, no inscriptions, only shaped stones and silence. And in that silence, modern interpretation is forced to wander between archaeology and imagination. Was the dresser a miniature temple echoing the larger ceremonial mounds on Orkney, like Maeshowe and the stones of Stennes? Was it a household echo of those grand monuments? Proof that spirituality was not confined to communal spaces, but woven into every wall. Some anthropologists see in the dresser an early form of ancestor veneration, similar to traditions later observed in Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The idea that one's forebears continued to dwell among the living, guiding, judging, protecting, may have been universal. In this reading, the dresser becomes a stage for continuity. Each generation added new relics, new memories, until the object itself embodied the lineage of the clan. Perhaps when families left or died out, the house and its altar were sealed, its spirits left undisturbed beneath the sand. Standing today, amid Orkney's salty winds, the dresses of Skara Brae appear deceptively simple. Flat stones stacked with prehistoric precision. But to the people who built them, they may have represented the cosmos, the axis between earth fire and spirit. The dresser, glowing in firelight, could have mirrored the order of the universe hearth, as sun dresser, as sky doorway, as horizon. Every home, a microcosm of the world itself. The beauty of Skara Brae's mystery is that it blurs the line between archaeology and philosophy. We are looking at stone, yet seeing belief. We interpret function, yet touch faith. The dresser refuses to reveal its true purpose because perhaps to its creators, it never had a single one. It was domestic, spiritual, aesthetic, and ancestral all at once, a sacred ambiguity carved into the rhythm of daily life. In a modern world obsessed with categorization, Skara Brae reminds us that early humans did not separate the sacred from the ordinary. They lived inside their myths, built their homes as temples, and saw divinity in the act of survival itself. The dresser, standing silent for millennia, may have been a monument not to gods, but to memory, to the human need to give meaning to space. And so, as the wind continues to howl over Orkney's cliffs, the stone dressers of Skara Brae still guard their secret. Were they shelves, altars, or portals to another realm? Perhaps all three, perhaps neither. The answer, like the people who built them, was buried by time, leaving behind only the whisper of a civilization that understood something we have long forgotten, that the home itself can be sacred, and that even the humblest stone can hold the spirit of eternity. Rising from the heart of central Java, Borobudur stands like a fossilized prayer, an enormous stone lotus, frozen in time. Built more than 200 years ago, under the Sailendra dynasty, this monument was meant to represent the cosmic path to enlightenment. 9 stacked platforms climb toward the heavens, 6 square terraces below 3 circular ones above. Each level reflects a stage of spiritual awakening from the realm of desire to the realm of formless perfection. Yet even in its majestic symmetry, Borobudur hides a haunting secret. Its summit, the very crown of the cosmic mountain, is gone. What do you think happened to Borobudur's missing top? Was it destroyed by time taken by humans, or never built at all? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your theory might reveal a truth history has long forgotten. When Dutch explorers stumbled upon the site in the early 19th century, buried beneath volcanic ash and jungle roots, they found the temple incomplete. The great central stupa, that final pinnacle symbolizing nirvana, was cracked, partially collapsed, and missing its uppermost section. The discovery sparked one of Southeast Asia's longest-standing archaeological mysteries. Did Borobudur ever truly have a finished top, or was it deliberately left incomplete, a stone riddle carved into the Earth's skin? To understand this mystery, one must first grasp Borobudur's cosmic blueprint. The entire monument is a 3-dimensional mandala, a map of the Buddhist universe. At its summit once stood the largest stupa believed to represent the formless state of enlightenment. Surrounding it are 72 smaller stupas, each enclosing a statue of Buddha seated in silent meditation. Together they mirrored Mount Meru, the mythic axis of the universe. Yet the geometric perfection of this celestial mountain seems oddly disturbed. Aerial scans and 3D models reveal an imbalance, as if the true apex was once higher, now sheared away. The top platform's foundation bears marks, suggesting the removal of an upper tier. But no trace of such a piece has ever been found in the temple's vicinity. During the massive restoration led by UNESCO in the 1970s, engineers discovered signs of reconstruction attempts from earlier centuries. Some stones had been repositioned. Certain dovetailed joints appeared freshly cut, inconsistent with the original 9th century craftsmanship. The summit's layers seemed compressed as though a section had been removed and its base lowered. Was this due to collapse from an earthquake or eruption? Or could it have been dismantled intentionally, perhaps during Java's religious transformation when Buddhism gave way to Hinduism and later Islam? Local legends whispers of monks who sealed sacred relics within the highest stupa fragments of the Buddha's remains or symbolic treasures. If true, this would have made Borobudur not just a monument, but a reliquary of immeasurable holiness. Yet such relics were never found. Some believe they were plundered by early treasure hunters or relocated by later rulers who sought to erase Borobudur's Buddhist identity. Others argued that the missing top never contained any relic at all, that its absence was philosophical, not physical. The people of Java have long treated Borobudur as a living mandala, not an object to be completed, but a cycle to be experienced. In this interpretation, the unfinished peak represents the idea that enlightenment cannot be constructed. Nirvana has no form, no final structure. The missing summit then becomes the ultimate teaching. The void itself is sacred. In that sense, Borobudur's incompleteness is perfection, a paradox carved from stone. However, not all scholars accept this mystical reading. Some geologists point to evidence of volcanic trauma. Mount Merapi, only 27 kilometers away, has erupted countless times throughout history. Layers of ash buried Borobudur for centuries, suggesting that seismic or eruptive forces could have destabilized its upper structure. The cracks in the Great Stupa, they argue, are scars from the Earth's violent tremors. But if natural forces destroyed the top, where did the debris go? No significant fragments matching the stupa's missing portion have ever been uncovered nearby. It is as though the summit simply vanished, evaporated into myth. Old colonial sketches further deepen the confusion. Early 19th century drawings by explorers like Raffles and Cornelius differ drastically in their depiction of the top. Some show a pointed spire, others a smooth dome, and a few omit any upper structure entirely. None of these records match the physical evidence precisely. Was this a case of artistic imagination, or were they documenting different stages of a restoration long before UNESCO intervened? The contradictions only fuel the enigma. Adding to the mystery are inscriptions from nearby temples, suggesting that Borobudur was never crowned. Some Javanese texts from the 14th century reference a great mountain of Dharma, left incomplete, possibly a poetic description of Borobudur. Could it be that the architects intentionally stopped short of finishing it? Perhaps they believed that perfection belongs only to the divine, and thus by leaving the summit open, they honored the void, the unshaped essence of enlightenment. Still, the evidence of architectural imbalance cannot be ignored. The current stupa seems truncated, its base flattened, as though awaiting a missing layer. The internal chamber, once thought to contain relics, was found empty, yet lined with precision-cut stones, suggesting a sealed cavity. Some archaeologists even speculate that the missing top might have been a lighter wooden structure, now long decayed, rather than stone. If so, Borobudur may have once gleamed with a towering spire, visible across the plains of Kedu, later lost to centuries of rain and wind. The question remains maddeningly unresolved. Was the summit ever real, or was it an illusion born from our desire for completion? Every possibility leads to another layer of uncertainty. A vanished relic, a stolen symbol, an unfinished design, all blend into a silence as profound as the Buddhas who sit within their latticed stupas, gazing toward eternity. Perhaps the true answer lies not in the stones, but in what they refuse to say. The missing top of Borobudur is more than an architectural puzzle. It is a metaphor for the limits of human understanding. Whether destroyed by time or conceived as empty by design, its absence forces us to confront the impermanence that Buddhism itself teaches. For over a millennium, Borobudur has stood beneath the Javanese sky, rising and falling with the tides of belief. Its base remains firm in the realm of desire. Its terraces ascend toward thought and formlessness. But its summit, the place where earth was meant to touch heaven, remains lost. The temple's body endures, yet its crown is missing, as if the gods themselves withheld the final piece. And so the enigma endures. Did the builders of Borobudur lose their sacred top to disaster, or did they never intend it to exist? Was enlightenment symbolized by the absence of form, or was something once there stolen by time, by faith, or by human hands? In the silence above its terraces, the answer still hovers invisible, like the summit that may never have been. From the dense jungles of northern Guatemala rises one of the most enigmatic structures of the ancient world, the Uaxactún astronomical complex. For centuries, its stones have faced the rising sun, whispering secrets of a civilization whose understanding of the heavens rivaled that of much later astronomers. To modern eyes, it appears as a humble arrangement of temples and stairways. But to the Maya, Uaxactún was a sacred machine, an enormous calendar built of stone, designed to align Earth with the cosmos. Do you believe the Maya developed their astronomical precision entirely on their own, or could their knowledge have come from an older forgotten civilization? Share your thoughts below. Long before telescopes, long before the invention of precise instruments, the Maya stood on the top of this pyramid and tracked the motions of the sun, moon, and stars with astonishing accuracy. Uaxactún, believed to have been founded more than 3,000 years ago, may be the oldest astronomical observatory in the Americas. From here, they measured solstices and equinoxes, predicted eclipses, and designed agricultural calendars that synchronized perfectly with the changing of the seasons. When archaeologists first reconstructed the site, they were shocked. The alignment between the central pyramid and the three smaller temples on the eastern platform matched perfectly with the sunrise positions of the solstices and equinoxes. Standing atop the western pyramid, one could watch the sun rise over the northern temple on the summer solstice, over the central one on the equinox, and over the southern one on the winter solstice. The precision was so exact that even modern survey tools confirmed its near-perfect alignment, a feat nearly impossible without advanced measurement equipment. This architectural layout, a pyramid facing three aligned temples, came to be known as an E-group. Archaeologists later found similar designs scattered across dozens of Maya cities, but Uaxactún was the first and the oldest. Each E-group functioned as a celestial observatory, tracking the sun's movement across the horizon. But the question remained, why was this structure built so early at a time when most of the Maya world had not yet developed cities or writing systems? Uaxactún seemed too sophisticated, too early. Some scholars propose that the site was not built through trial and error, but rather through inherited knowledge, a precise understanding of geometry and solar motion that appeared suddenly and fully formed without a visible period of experimentation. For the Maya, astronomy was never just science, it was religion. The heavens were alive with gods whose movements shaped destiny. The daily rising and setting of the sun symbolized death and rebirth. The path of Venus dictated war and peace. The moon's cycles governed fertility and time. Every observation made at Uaxactún carried both a practical purpose and a divine message. Farmers relied on the solstice markers to time their crops, while priests interpreted celestial events as signs from the gods. This fusion of cosmology and precision science suggests something profound, that the Maya viewed themselves as participants in the cosmic order, not merely observers. Many researchers believe that it was at Uaxactún where the first stones of the long count calendar, the greatest timekeeping system of the Maya, were laid. This was not merely a way to mark days, but a method to measure eternity itself, linking celestial cycles with the rhythm of life and death. The system was divided into units such as Baktun, Katun, and Tun, allowing them to record spans of time stretching thousands of years, far beyond any contemporary civilization. Stelae and carvings discovered at Uaxtactun contain the oldest known Maya dates, suggesting that this may have been the laboratory where they first encoded the movements of the sun, moon, and Venus into a sacred mathematical language. The Maya tracked Venus's 584-day cycle, associating it with warfare prophecy and ritual sacrifice. They also knew that the solar year lasted 365.24 days, a number strikingly close to modern measurements. Each temple at Uaxtactun was not just a place of worship, but a colossal stone clock where time gods and humankind converged within the same cosmic rhythm. This is where the mystery of Uaxtactun deepens. How could a civilization living in the heart of the Guatemalan jungle without metal tools or telescopes achieve such astonishing precision in their observations of the sky? Their astronomical alignments, recorded long before the Greeks or Egyptians reached similar accuracy, seem almost impossible for their time. Some scholars believe the Maya priests achieved this perfection through generations of patient observation, marking the sunrise day after day, refining their records until the alignment was flawless. Such dedication would have required centuries of uninterrupted continuity, a remarkable feat for a society often shaped by migration and war. Others propose that the knowledge of Uaxtactun was not discovered, but inherited, passed down from an even older, now lost civilization. They point to uncanny similarities between the E-group layout and other ancient observatories scattered across the world: Nabta Playa in Egypt, Stonehenge in England, and Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Could there have once been a forgotten source of global wisdom about the heavens, a shared legacy transmitted through symbols and myth? Then there is the most controversial idea of all, that the builders of Uaxtactun may have been guided or at least inspired by a higher intelligence beyond Earth. Advocates of this theory cite the sudden appearance of advanced astronomical architecture across distant cultures with no evident development leading up to it. Uaxtactun's precision, they argue, may be the echo of an understanding far greater than its age. Yet whatever the truth, no written record explains where this knowledge truly came from. The Maya left behind calendars, rituals, and myths, but never the methods by which they mapped the heavens so perfectly. Even their descendants, when asked centuries later, could only speak of their ancestors as those who spoke to the stars. Standing atop Uaxtactun today, one can still feel the purpose behind its construction. The temples form a silent dialogue between earth and heaven. As the sun rises and its rays fall through the gaps between the temples, they illuminate the steps with perfect precision, a phenomenon that repeats year after year, unchanged for millennia. It is as if the builders encoded a message within the very architecture. Time is not linear, it is cyclical. What rises will fall, and what sets will rise again. To the Maya, this was not just an observatory, it was a cosmic clock, a stage for the gods. The priests who stood there were mediators between worlds, reading divine will in the movement of celestial light. The architectural DNA of Uaxtactun spread across the Maya civilization. Later cities like Tikal-Copan and Chichen Itza built their temples using the same E-group principles, always facing the rising sun, always aligned to solstices and equinoxes. The influence was so strong that centuries later, when the civilization reached its height, Uaxtactun's layout was still considered sacred geometry. Even today, indigenous Maya communities celebrate equinox ceremonies at ancient sites, preserving echoes of a science and spirituality intertwined for thousands of years. In the end, Uaxtactun remains both a monument and a riddle. It tells us that human beings long before the age of technology could look to the skies and understand patterns that link life, death, and the cosmos. But it also forces us to confront a deeper question. How much have we forgotten? Perhaps the mystery is not how the Maya knew so much, but how modern humanity, with all its instruments and data, has lost the reverence that once guided them. Uaxactun stands in the jungle like a patient guardian of secrets, its stones aligned with the heavens, waiting for us to remember the language of the stars. From the misty marshlands of ancient Scandinavia, a quiet revolution was born. Not of blood, not of conquest, but of metal. Long before the roaring blast furnaces of Europe lit the sky, the Norse people were already mastering an element hidden beneath their feet. They found iron not in mountains, but in the earth's most humble places, the bogs. What began as a discovery of practicality would evolve into one of the most enduring enigmas of the Viking Age, the rise and disappearance of the bog iron trade. What do you think truly caused the disappearance of the Norse bog iron tradition, technology, climate, or something deliberately buried by its own creators? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To the modern mind, the idea seems absurd, harvesting iron from mud. Yet for the Norse, this was an everyday miracle. In the oxygen-poor wetlands of Scandinavia, iron naturally precipitated from groundwater, forming nodules known as bog iron. Every few decades, the same bog would grow new deposits as if the earth itself were replenishing its gift. This made bog iron a renewable resource centuries before the concept of sustainability even existed. The Norse people collected this precious material from dark, peaty waters, often guided by subtle red stains that marked the presence of iron oxides. It was slow, patient work, digging through the swamp by hand, lifting the heavy, rust-colored clumps, drying them by firelight. Each piece was small, fragile, but together they held the promise of strength, warfare, and survival. The bog iron alone was worthless until it met the fire. In small clay furnaces, often no larger than a man's chest, Norse blacksmiths performed their quiet alchemy. They mixed iron ore with charcoal and peat, fanning the flames with bellows until the heart of the furnace glowed white. Inside, chemistry and craft united. Oxygen burned away, leaving behind a spongy lump of pure iron called a bloom. It was laborious and inefficient by modern standards, but for its time, nothing short of genius. The temperature they achieved, nearly 1,200 degrees Celsius, was unheard of in primitive furnaces. Yet the Norse did it with nothing but muscle intuition and a deep understanding of their materials. Each bloom was hammered again and again, compacted and shaped into tools, rivets, and blades, the backbone of Viking civilization. From those modest furnaces came the strength of an empire. Bog iron built the longships that conquered oceans, the axes that cleared forests, and the swords that wrote sagas in blood. Without it, there would have been no Viking Age, no fleets cutting across the North Sea, no colonization of Iceland or Greenland, no expeditions to the distant shores of Vinland. What made bog iron truly remarkable was its abundance and accessibility. Unlike deep mines that required engineering and manpower, bog iron could be found almost anywhere. It democratized metallurgy. A small village could produce its own weapons and tools independent of kings or merchants. And so, from Iceland to Finland, the land itself seemed to forge the destiny of the Norse. While silver hoards and gold armorings capture our imagination, archaeologists now believe that the true wealth of the Vikings lay in iron. Bog iron was lightweight, renewable, and essential. It was traded across fjords and seas, carried in ships, along with furs and amber. Some regions, especially in Norway and Sweden, became known for their superior quality iron, prized by both craftsmen and warriors, yet the trade was almost invisible in the historical record. No written contracts, no ledgers, no monuments celebrate it. The evidence lies buried in slag heaps, furnace ruins, and scattered tools. The iron economy of the Vikings existed in the shadows, sustained by oral knowledge and the secret craft of the smiths. One of the most haunting discoveries came in 1960 at the northern tip of Newfoundland, in a place called Les Meadows. Among the remains of Norse buildings, archaeologists uncovered a small forge and fragments of slag, proof that the Vikings had smelted bog iron in North America over 1,000 years ago. It was the first iron smelting in the New World. Why would they carry this knowledge across an ocean? Perhaps they understood that bogs existed everywhere, even in this strange, untamed land. Perhaps they planned to settle, to build, to sustain. But just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. The forge went cold. The slag was left behind, and with it, a trace of a technology that briefly united the old and new worlds. Despite their lack of writing, the Norse smiths mastered a subtle science. They knew the best season to collect ore: late summer, when the bogs were dry and the iron richest. They selected specific mosses and raked peat to control the fire's heat and oxygen flow. Each forge was tuned like an instrument, its secrets guarded within families for generations. Modern experiments attempting to reproduce Norse bog iron yield widely varying results, proving how much of their craft relied on intuition and ancestral memory. Their skill bridged nature and metallurgy in a way that feels almost spiritual. In their hands, mud became metal, and metal became myth. Then abruptly, it ended. After the 13th century, the bog iron tradition faded from Scandinavia, not gradually, but like a flame snuffed out. Archaeological sites fall silent. The slag heaps stop growing. The furnaces are abandoned, left to sink back into the peat from which they once drew their lifeblood. Why did this happen? Some historians point to the rise of blast furnaces in continental Europe, which could produce more iron at higher quality. Others blame climatic shifts, the onset of the Little Ice Age, when colder, wetter weather may have flooded bogs and made ore collection impossible. There are even theories of resource exhaustion, though bog iron was self-regenerating. A few scholars go further, suggesting something deeper, that the Norse themselves chose to let it die. Perhaps the old ways had become sacred, belonging to an age of gods and sagas that no longer fit the Christianized North. The knowledge once passed from father to son may have simply stopped being spoken. The silence that followed was absolute. When archaeologists rediscovered the slag heaps centuries later, they found no inscriptions, no manuals, not even symbolic carvings, just blackened earth and traces of forgotten fire, the ghost of a technology both humble and divine. It was as if the bogs had reclaimed not only the iron, but also the memory of those who forged it. Today, scattered across the wetlands of Scandinavia, faint outlines of furnaces still lie hidden beneath layers of peat and time. Some are so well preserved that even the iron stains remain visible. Scientists can analyze the isotopic composition of the slag, tracing it to specific regions, even specific forges, a kind of fingerprint of the past. And yet the people behind them remain anonymous. Their names lost, their voices unheard. All that endures is the whisper of bellows, the crackle of fire, and the iron that once bound a civilization together. The bogs, once a source of life, now guard their secrets in silence. The bog iron of the Norse was more than a resource, it was a philosophy. It taught them to work with the earth, not against it, to find strength in patience, to see value in the overlooked. In many ways, it reflected the Norse spirit itself, resilient, self-renewing, and quietly unstoppable. Modern researchers inspired by this ancient practice have begun studying bog iron as a model for sustainable metallurgy, the idea that nature's cycles can support human innovation without destruction. In that sense, the Vikings may have been among the first environmental engineers, guided not by science, but by instinct and respect for the land. The bogs still breathe. Every century, new layers form, and with them, new veins of iron. Somewhere beneath the moss, the next generation of living metal waits. And perhaps if we listen closely, the old furnaces still whisper their secret, that progress does not always come from conquest, but sometimes from the quiet art of harmony between man and earth. The bog iron trade was not merely an economy, it was an understanding, and its disappearance remains one of the most haunting mysteries of the North. Hidden deep within the heart of Angkor Thom, Cambodia, lies one of humanity's most enigmatic creations, the Bayon Temple, the last great state temple of the Khmer Empire, and perhaps its most mysterious. At first glance, it appears as a chaotic mountain of stone, its towers rising unevenly, its walls weathered by centuries of rain and jungle. But as sunlight pierces the morning mist, the illusion fades. Hundreds of colossal faces begin to emerge, calm, smiling, omnipresent. They gaze out from every direction, as if watching over both the earth and the heavens. These are the smiling faces of Bayon, and for nearly 800 years, they have guarded their secret. How were they built? How did the ancient Khmer manage to build hundreds of massive stone faces, weighing tons, without modern machinery? What techniques do you think they used? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The Bayon was commissioned by King Jayavarman VII, the most powerful and spiritually driven ruler of the Khmer Empire. Unlike the earlier temples of Angkor dedicated to Hindu gods, Bayon was a Buddhist monument intended not only as a shrine, but as a symbol of universal compassion. Jayavarman envisioned his empire as the earthly reflection of divine order, a world where the ruler embodied enlightenment itself. To express this vision, he ordered the construction of a temple whose very stones would radiate serenity. Yet what emerged was more than symbolic art. It was a technical masterpiece. Every one of the 54 towers bore 4 giant faces, each about 4 meters tall, carved from blocks of sandstone weighing several tons. When viewed from above, the entire layout resembles a mandala, a cosmic diagram representing the universe. The temple was not just built, it was engineered with precision and intent, beyond what historians once believed possible for the 12th century. Bayon is a labyrinth, 3 tiers of corridors, terraces, and chambers, rising like a mountain of thought. Its outer galleries depict scenes of daily life and warfare. Its middle level twists into dim passageways lined with reliefs of celestial beings. Its upper platform bursts into a forest of towers, each crowned with a smiling face. But what truly astounds modern researchers is the mathematical alignment of these towers. Many faces align perfectly with cardinal directions, yet others follow celestial angles that correspond to solstices and equinoxes. The builders seem to have known how to orient massive structures with astronomical accuracy, something even with today's instruments requires skill. And then there's the structural challenge. These faces are not carved from single stones. Each one was assembled block by block, like a colossal 3-dimensional puzzle. Each block had to be cut, transported, and placed so precisely that when joined, it formed a seamless living visage, lips, curving eyelids, soft expressions, serene. Even after centuries of erosion, the joints between these blocks are almost invisible. There is no mortar, no binding material. The stones hold together purely through their own weight, and the perfection of their interlocking surfaces, a feat that rivals the megalithic wonders of Peru and the Great Pyramid itself. Here lies the heart of Bayon's enigma. How did they do it? The sandstone used came from quarries located over 40 kilometers away. Transporting it through dense jungle and across rivers would have required immense coordination and knowledge of physics. Some theories suggest the use of wooden sledges and bamboo rollers. Others propose floating the stones along canals, yet none explain the fine detail of placement once they reach the site. To carve the faces, the artisans had to first envision the expression across multiple stones, predicting exactly how each block's surface would connect. It's as if they sculpted not just in 3 dimensions, but in fragments of space, knowing how to assemble the pieces later into perfection. Modern engineers who have studied the temple say this would have required an advanced understanding of geometry balance and visual mapping skills that by conventional chronology did not exist in the 12th century Khmer world. And the question deepens, why do all the faces look the same? Over 200 smiling visages, carved by different hands, yet nearly identical in proportion and mood. Some believe there must have been a master blueprint, a mathematical ratio, or symbolic measure guiding all sculptors, but no trace of such a plan has ever been found. To this day, no one can fully explain how the builders managed to align and elevate such enormous stones without cranes, metal reinforcements, or modern scaffolding. Many faces perch 30 meters above the ground, tilted at delicate angles, yet they remain intact after earthquakes, monsoons, and 8 centuries of decay. Some researchers point to the precision of the stone joints and suggest the use of unknown stabilization techniques, perhaps metal pins or locking mechanisms now eroded away. Others hint at the possibility that the Khmer possessed a lost method of stone softening or chemical treatment that allowed perfect shaping before hardening again, similar to mysterious accounts from Incan architecture. Though there is no direct evidence, the theory persists because no tool marks matching ordinary chisels or hammers have been found on certain faces. The surface texture is unusually smooth, almost polished, as if melted slightly or ground using a method we no longer understand. If this is true, Bayon might not only be a masterpiece of devotion, but also a remnant of a forgotten technology, one capable of shaping matter itself to mirror spiritual intent. No inscriptions name the architects or artisans who built Bayon. Unlike the pyramids or Gothic cathedrals, no record exists of a chief designer. It is as though the temple was created by anonymous hands, guided by a single mind. Some historians believe that a guild of sacred craftsmen, perhaps monks trained in both engineering and meditation, carried out the work under the king's vision. These were not mere builders, but initiates blending technical mastery with spiritual discipline. To them, each block of stone was a mantra, each smile a reflection of inner awakening. The modern viewer stands before these faces and senses something beyond human labor, an intelligence woven into every curve and gaze. It's as though the temple itself was built to be alive, each tower a living presence whispering through time. When archaeologists first restored Bayon in the 20th century, they were bewildered by the precision of its assembly. Even with modern cranes and measuring tools, realigning dislodged blocks proved agonizingly complex. Some fragments fit only in one position, suggesting the builders used exact three-dimensional planning, possibly scaled models carved from clay or wood. Still, no such prototypes have ever been discovered. The Bayon remains an engineering paradox, perfectly balanced, delicately expressive, yet mechanically sound. Could it be that the Khmer engineers understood more than stone, that they grasped the harmony of geometry, acoustics, and cosmic order? Some scholars think Bayon's layout reflects not only Buddhist cosmology, but planetary motion, a stone map of the heavens, encoded in architecture. In this interpretation, The smiling faces are not merely human. They are celestial guardians, aligned with the movements of the stars, their serenity a message from the cosmos itself. After the fall of the Angkor Empire, the jungle swallowed the city, yet the smiling faces of Bayonne endured through time. When rediscovered in the 19th century, the temple did not radiate decay, but a profound serenity. Even after centuries, the stones seem to pulse with the dream of Jayavarman VII. To this day, its construction remains one of Asia's greatest mysteries, a silent answer hidden behind the immortal smile of stone. Perhaps the mystery of Bayonne was never meant to be solved, but to be felt. The temple stands as a perfect harmony between stone and soul, between engineering and faith. After centuries, those smiling faces still whisper through time, not to reveal their secret, but to remind us that some wonders exist only to awaken awe within the human spirit. In the year 1866, deep within the gold-rich hills of Calaveras County, California, a group of miners made a discovery that would shake the foundations of archaeology and human history. While excavating gravel beneath thick layers of ancient volcanic rock nearly 130 feet below the surface, they unearthed something extraordinary: a human skull. What made it remarkable wasn't its appearance, but its impossible location. The skull was found encased in a layer of Pliocene gravel believed at the time to be over 5 million years old. If authentic, this would mean that modern humans existed millions of years earlier than science had ever believed possible, long before Homo sapiens were thought to have evolved. The skull was brought to Dr. Josiah Whitney, the respected state geologist of California, a man already fascinated by the idea that an ancient advanced race might once have roamed the American continent. Upon examination, Whitney declared it genuine. He published his findings, stating confidently that this was an authentic relic of man contemporary with the mastodon and the elephant. For the scientific community of the 19th century, this was dynamite. If true, it would rewrite the entire timeline of human evolution. Yet even as the announcement spread across newspapers and lecture halls, whispers of doubt began to rise. If you were the first to see a skull buried deep beneath 5 million-year-old rock, would you believe it's evidence of a lost civilization, or just a trick of fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Not everyone was convinced. Some of Whitney's peers at Harvard and the Smithsonian found the claim too extraordinary to be credible. How could a human skull, anatomically identical to modern man, predate even the earliest known ancestors of Homo sapiens by millions of years? Several geologists noted that the Calaveras region was riddled with mining tunnels, and miners were known to dig through layers of ancient rock that had been disturbed by landslides or floods. It was entirely possible that the skull had been washed down or reburied in younger sediment long after the rock layers had formed. Others proposed a more mischievous explanation, that the skull was planted deliberately as a prank. California's gold rush era was filled with tall tales and hoaxes, and scientists, to many rough-edged miners, were perfect targets for such jokes. There were even reports that the skull had been taken from a Native American burial site nearby, rubbed with clay to appear ancient, and placed strategically for the unsuspecting Whitney to find. But despite these claims, no one could provide definitive proof of deceit. The skull remained an enigma, either a hoax of historic proportions or evidence of a forgotten chapter of mankind's past. For decades, the Calaveras skull sat in the collection of the California Academy of Sciences, shrouded in skepticism and mystery. As technology advanced, researchers revisited the specimen with modern methods. In the early 20th century, chemical and physical tests were conducted. The results were striking. The bone composition was too well preserved, with no signs of mineralization that would indicate great age. Later in the 1970s, carbon dating confirmed that the skull was less than 1000 years old, far too recent to have been entombed in Pliocene strata. This seemed to settle the matter. Scientists declared it a hoax, a clever deception that had fooled one of California's leading geologists. The skull's legend faded into the background of forgotten curiosities. Yet, even with the verdict delivered, the mystery didn't die. If the skull truly came from a later burial, how did it end up buried beneath solid basalt and ancient gravel layers that miners had to blast through? To reach the miners who found it swore under oath that they had dug it from the original strata, not a disturbed area. And if it was planted by whom and how could someone have gone to the trouble of hauling a human skull deep into an active mine, concealing it under tons of gravel and rock just to play a prank? There was no motive, no confession, and no contemporary record of the hoax being planned. Even stranger Dr. Whitney himself never retracted his claim despite immense pressure and ridicule. Until his death in 1896, he maintained that the Calavera skull was genuine and that history would one day vindicate him. Some later researchers even speculated that natural processes could have allowed a younger burial to sink deeper through cracks or faults in the Earth's crust. Others suggested the possibility of tectonic uplift or landslides that might have mixed layers of vastly different ages, meaning the skull's location might not have been as impossible as it seemed. These explanations, though rational, still failed to explain everything. Over time, the Calavera skull evolved into a symbol not just of deception, but of how fragile truth can be when faith and science collide. It stood as a cautionary tale about the dangers of confirmation bias, yet also as a haunting reminder that not every mystery yields to logic. To some fringe historians and forbidden archaeology enthusiasts, the skull remains proof of a suppressed truth, evidence that intelligent humans walked the Earth far earlier than mainstream science admits. They argue that the quick dismissal of such finds reflects the rigidity of academic orthodoxy, which fears discoveries that don't fit established theories. Whether one sees it as a hoax, a geological anomaly, or a suppressed truth, the Calavera skull has transcended its physical form. It has become a mirror reflecting human belief, the need to understand our origins, even when facts contradict desire. Here lies the most enduring question. Was the Calavera skull a prank or a buried truth disguised as one? Despite modern testing, no one ever identified the supposed prankster. No miner confessed, no written joke surfaced, and no eyewitness account definitively exposed the deception. The hoax verdict, while logical, was built on absence of evidence rather than direct proof. Even more puzzling, the physical records of the skull's discovery, sketches, soil samples, and miners' testimonies have all either been lost or destroyed over time. Without them, the event exists in a gray zone between fact and legend. This lingering uncertainty has given rise to a haunting idea. What if the hoax wasn't the skull itself, but the explanation? What if the Calavera skull was too inconvenient to be accepted, too disruptive to fit within the tidy walls of 19th century science? Could the label of hoax have been a convenient way to silence the anomaly and restore order to the scientific narrative? The truth may have been buried long ago, perhaps deeper than the skull itself. Today, the Calavera skull sits quietly in the archives of the University of California Museum of Anthropology, a relic of both human curiosity and human folly. Its story continues to fascinate those who question the limits of science and the reliability of history. It reminds us that discovery is rarely clear-cut. Every artifact, every fossil, and every ancient bone carries not only the weight of time, but also the bias of those who interpret it. Perhaps the skull's real lesson lies not in its age but in our reaction to it, in how easily wonder turns to belief and belief to dogma. Whether hoax or mystery, the Calavera skull endures as one of archaeology's most haunting puzzles, a whisper from the past that refuses to be silenced. He was a boy, crowned as a god, a ruler, who held the fate of Egypt in his fragile hands. Yet before his 20th year, the divine flame of Tutankhamun was abruptly extinguished, leaving behind not clarity, but silence. His tomb sealed in gold, and mystery spoke of unimaginable wealth, but not of how or why he died. 3,000 years later, scientists and historians still chase the same haunting question echoing through the sands of time. Was Tutankhamun's death the hand of fate, or the touch of betrayal? What do you think truly happened to Egypt's boy king? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Tutankhamun ascended the throne at the tender age of 9, inheriting not just a kingdom, but also the chaos left behind by his heretical father, Akhenaten. Egypt was fractured, its gods dethroned, its priests humiliated, and its capital abandoned. The young king, guided by powerful courtiers, restored the old religion, brought back Amun, and returned the royal court to Thebes. Yet just as Egypt began to heal, Tutankhamun's life came to an abrupt and unexplained end at only 19. No ancient record mentions illness, no royal inscription mourns a fallen king. His death came swiftly, and silence followed as if the kingdom itself wished to erase the truth. When Howard Carter discovered Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, the world was stunned by its untouched splendor. Gold shrines, chariots, jewelry, and the famous golden mask captured the imagination of millions. But among the splendor, there was something wrong, something missing. No scrolls describing his final days, no monuments commemorating his passing. The young pharaoh had vanished into eternity without explanation. The first CT scans of his mummy performed in the 20th and 21st centuries only deepened the mystery. A fracture at the base of the skull led early researchers to believe that Tutankhamun had been struck from behind, assassinated by someone close to him. The idea of royal murder gripped the public. Was it the cunning vizier who seized the throne soon after the boy's death? Or perhaps General Horemheb, the ambitious commander who later claimed the crown? The power struggle that erupted after Tutankhamun's passing hinted at treachery in the heart of the palace. Yet science complicated this theory. Later examinations revealed that the fracture might have occurred after death, during the embalming process, or mishandling of the mummy. The murder theory faltered, but suspicion remained. Other clues emerged: a badly broken left leg, splintered just above the knee, showing signs of infection. Could the young pharaoh have fallen from his chariot during a hunt or battle? The wound, untreated in a world without antibiotics, could have led to deadly sepsis. It was a plausible, tragic accident. But again, no one truly knows. DNA analyses added new layers of tragedy. Tutankhamun was not just a king, he was a genetic victim of royal purity. His father Akhenaten had married his own sister, producing a son born with fragile bones, malformed feet, and possibly a cleft palate. The boy king's body showed signs of clubfoot and scoliosis. He walked with a cane, and over 130 walking sticks were found buried with him. These were not symbols of royal leisure, they were tools of survival. Moreover, tests detected Plasmodium falciparum, the parasite responsible for the most severe form of malaria. A fragile body, a festering wound, and a deadly infection together, they could easily have ended his life. And yet there are details that don't quite fit the picture of natural death. His funeral seems rushed, improvised. The famous golden mask, that eternal image of the boy king, may not even have been made for him. Some researchers argue that its features were altered, suggesting it once belonged to a woman, perhaps Nefertiti. His tomb itself, though filled with treasures, was unusually small for a pharaoh. It seems as though the burial had to be arranged quickly, as if no one had expected him to die when he did. The politics of the time were treacherous. After his death, the throne passed almost immediately to his elderly advisor, who officiated Tutankhamun's burial, and then married his young widow, Ankhesenamun. Soon after, a desperate letter from the queen surfaced in foreign archives. She begged the king of the Hittites to send her one of his sons to marry her, claiming she had no son and no husband and did not wish to marry one of my servants. But the prince sent from the north was mysteriously murdered before reaching Egypt. Not long after was crowned, and Ankhesenamun disappeared from all records. Was this a coincidence, or the final act in a royal conspiracy? Did I orchestrate the young pharaoh's death to secure the throne and claim the queen? Or was it Horemheb, the military general who later erased both Tutankhamun and I from history, rewriting the royal line as if neither had ever existed? Science provides possible answers: infection, malaria, weak bones, but politics whispers something darker. Ancient Egypt was no stranger to silent coups. Power was divine, yet fragile, and even gods could bleed. Tutankhamun's death came at a time when the priesthood was regaining power, the army was restless, and the future of the dynasty uncertain. The boy who restored the gods may have become a sacrifice to them. Then there is the chilling evidence from the tomb itself. Modern chemical analysis revealed that the body may have been accidentally burned after burial. The oils used during mummification reacted violently with oxygen in the sealed coffin, generating heat that scorched the king's flesh. Even in death, the young ruler's body was consumed by an unearthly fire, a grim metaphor for a life cut short by forces beyond his control. Every discovery seems to solve one mystery only to uncover another. If it was an accident, why the haste? If it was disease, why conceal the truth? If it was murder, why no sign of rebellion or revenge? The sands of Egypt have preserved the boy king's face, but not his story. His death remains a crossroads where science, legend, and politics collide, each theory shining for a moment, only to be swallowed by the darkness of uncertainty. Perhaps that is why Tutankhamun endures, not because of his golden mask or the treasures of his tomb, but because of the unanswered question that lies behind his still face. Was he a victim of nature's cruelty or of human ambition? Did he die a fragile child king, or was he silenced before his reign could reshape Egypt's destiny? 3 millennia later, despite DNA sequencing, CT scans, and digital reconstructions, we stand no closer to certainty. The truth is entombed with him, deep in the Valley of the Kings, hidden beneath gold myth and time itself. And maybe that is fitting, for in his mystery, Tutankhamun remains immortal. As the ancient Egyptians believed, a king truly dies only when his name is forgotten. Yet every time we whisper his Tutankhamun, we awaken the question that will never rest. Did the boy king die by chance or by betrayal? Amid the ruins of Tula on the Mexican plateau, 4 colossal stone warriors stand silently gazing toward the horizon as if guarding a secret swallowed by time. Carved from basalt, harder than steel, the Atlantes of Tula are more than statues. They are relics of a lost power. Yet the source of their stone has never been found. No quarry, no tool marks, no traces of transport, only absolute silence. For over a century, scientists have wondered, how did the Toltecs, without iron or wheels, create such monumental perfection? Perhaps beneath the sands of Hidalgo still lies the lost quarry, the birthplace of these stone guardians, one of the greatest mysteries of ancient Mesoamerica. If scientists have never found the quarry that supplied the Atlantes stone, what do you think happened to it? Was it lost to time or deliberately hidden? Share your theory in the comments below. When modern researchers analyzed the Atlantes, they found that each figure had been carved from extremely hard volcanic basalt, a rock that resists weathering and takes an almost metallic polish. Such material does not occur naturally around the city of Tula. Geological surveys extending for tens of kilometers have failed to locate any quarry that matches the chemical and mineral composition of these stones. Every surrounding hillside, lava flow, and riverbed has been tested. None fits. This absence is not a minor gap in knowledge, it is a glaring impossibility. The Toltec artisans of the 10th century could not have carved and erected 8-ton statues without a known quarry. Yet the landscape offers no clue, as if the stone appeared by magic or was transported from a place that has since vanished. Some archaeologists suggest that the source may have lain far to the north or west in volcanic fields now eroded or buried. Others speculate that the ancient workers exploited a local outcrop that has since been obliterated by floods, agriculture, or later construction. But none of these explanations is supported by evidence. There are no traces of extraction pits, tool marks, sled tracks, or even fragments of discarded stone. It is as though the quarries of Tula were deliberately erased from history. One of the most astonishing discoveries for researchers is that the stone used to create the Atlantean warriors is not uniform at all. Under the microscope, scientists have found that within a single statue, there are completely different crystalline structures, as if each section was carved from stone, taken from separate quarries. The torso appears to be made from fine-grained black basalt, while the head is composed of coarse gray basalt filled with tiny air pocket signs that the rocks formed under different pressures. To combine such diverse, ultra-hard materials into one seamless, perfectly balanced figure is a feat far beyond the technical level the Toltecs were believed to possess. The joints are fitted with such precision that not even a hair could pass through. The proportions are exact and the symmetry flawless. This suggests they understood the mechanical properties of each stone type, mastering how to extract shape and polish them so every piece fused perfectly together. To this day, no experimental attempt using stone or copper tools has been able to replicate such refinement, leading archaeologists to wonder, did the Toltecs possess a lost stoneworking technology, or were they inheriting a far older and forgotten secret? Some geologists believe that the mystery may be hidden beneath layers of volcanic debris. The region of Hidalgo lies within a complex field of extinct cones, Cerro del Cielito Cerro Gordo, and others that erupted roughly 1,000 years ago. It is conceivable that the original quarry was engulfed by later lava flows or landslides, sealing it under meters of solid rock. If this is true, the Toltecs would have mined the stone before the last eruption cycles, meaning they possessed geological awareness of strata that modern scientists rediscovered only recently. They might have known that beneath a layer of tuff lay veins of durable basalt ideal for sculpture. Yet the scale of such an operation remains difficult to imagine without iron tools, pulleys, or draft animals. One of the deepest mysteries of the Atlantes lies in the cuts and carvings on their stone surfaces. When examined closely, the grooves are sharp, square-edged, and astonishingly precise, as if made by steel tools or advanced mechanical instruments rather than primitive hand tools. Under magnification, the grooves appear smooth and continuous, showing no signs of hammering or fracturing from impact, clear evidence that they were cut in a single steady motion, not chipped away piece by piece. What confounds archaeologists is that the Toltecs only possessed obsidian flint and soft copper, none of which can cut basalt, a stone harder than steel. Experimental reconstructions using these same tools have all failed. The copper quickly wears down, the obsidian shatters, and the basalt remains virtually untouched. So how did the Toltecs accomplish it? Some theorize they discovered a sophisticated, now-lost stoneworking technique, possibly involving abrasive sand wooden drills tipped with quartz, or cycles of heating and cooling to fracture the rock. Yet others believe the Toltecs were heirs to an even older civilization's knowledge, one that understood stone and energy in ways far beyond their time. Even if we assume the Toltecs had located a distant basalt quarry, the question of how they transported such massive stones remains unsolved. Each Atlantean statue weighs between 6 and 8 tons and was erected atop a pyramid nearly 15 meters high, a technical feat seemingly beyond a civilization that had no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal tools. How could they possibly move these enormous blocks across rough terrain and then raise them to the height of a 5-story building? Many archaeologists propose that they used wooden rollers, fiber ropes, or earthen ramps, yet no traces of wear marks, drag lines, or temporary structures have ever been found near the pyramid. The plaza below remains smooth and undisturbed, showing no evidence of having supported heavy loads. Even more astonishingly, the 4 statues are aligned with perfect precision on the temple platform, facing the 4 cardinal directions, as if they had been assembled and adjusted in place using a method we still cannot comprehend. It is possible that the Toltecs possessed a lost technique for moving and assembling stone, or perhaps they once applied some forgotten physical principle now surviving only in legend. Toltec mythology may preserve a faint memory of the process. According to Nahua legend, the builders of Tula were guided by the god-king Quetzalcoatl, who commanded stones that sang. In ritual texts, certain rocks were described as possessing spiritual resonance capable of answering the call of the priest when struck. It is tempting to imagine that the quarry itself was considered sacred, its location concealed so that only initiates could access it. Perhaps the secrecy was intentional. The material of the Atlantes was not merely stone, but a divine gift, the physical embodiment of cosmic warriors. In this interpretation, the lost quarry was less a geographical site than a restricted sanctuary, its coordinates erased when the Toltec kingdom fell to invaders. A more controversial hypothesis holds that the Toltecs inherited the Atlantes from a much older culture. Weathering patterns on some fragments are deeper than expected for a 10th century origin, suggesting that the blocks might have been recarved or repurposed from monuments centuries earlier. If so, the missing quarry may have belonged to that predecessor civilization, perhaps one destroyed by volcanic cataclysm or swallowed by the shifting earth. This idea resonates with Mesoamerican myths that speak of earlier suns' ages of creation and destruction. The Atlantes could be remnants of a forgotten epoch, lifted from ruins and set upon the Toltec temple as a symbol of continuity with the gods of the past. Despite decades of surveys using satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and chemical analysis, the quarry source of the Tula Atlantes remains an unsolved mystery. The evidence stands before us, yet the quarry has vanished, as if time itself had severed the link between earth and monument. The stone warriors still gaze silently toward the Mexican plateau, both masterpieces of art and paradoxes of science. Somewhere beneath layers of ash soil or forgotten temples, the ancient quarry may still sleep, waiting to reveal how the Toltecs, without iron, without wheels, achieved the impossible. Until that day, the Atlantes remain questions carved in stone, reminders of the knowledge buried with time. Deep in the misty jungles of central Java stands Borobudur, the world's largest Buddhist temple, a monument carved not only from volcanic stone, but from the very soul of an ancient civilization. Rising from a sea of green, its 9 stacked platforms form a three-dimensional mandala, a sacred map of the universe, built by hands that understood geometry, astronomy, and spirituality as one. Yet behind its perfection lies a mystery that refuses to fade. In its final stage, something happened. The builders stopped suddenly, inexplicably, leaving behind signs of haste, interruption, and silence. What do you think really happened at Borobudur's final stage? A natural disaster, a lost dynasty, or something far more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. No written records describe its completion. No inscription marks the day the final stone was laid. Archaeologists can trace the stages of construction, layer by layer, and what they find in the upper terraces is chillingly clear. The work ceased before it should have. Some of the relief panels remain unfinished, their outlines etched but never carved. Certain stone blocks near the summit were placed but not smoothed, suggesting a halt mid-process. It is as though a vast army of workers simply walked away, abandoning a cosmic task that had consumed decades, maybe centuries, of devotion. Why? To understand this riddle, one must first grasp what Borobudur was meant to be. Conceived during the reign of the Sailendra dynasty around the 8th and 9th centuries CE, it was not merely a temple, but a representation of enlightenment itself. Every level symbolized a higher plane of consciousness, from the earthly base to the transcendental peak, where the soul merges with the void. Over 2 million andesite blocks were quarried, cut, and fitted without mortar, aligned so perfectly that even today, after 200 years of earthquakes and rain, the structure stands immovable. Its corridors stretch with 600 reliefs narrating the teachings of the Buddha, while 504 statues of the Enlightened One watch eternally over the landscape. And yet the summit tells a different story. There, in the highest circular platform, stand 72 perforated stupas, each encasing a Buddha statue in deep meditation. Above them, one grand stupa crowns the temple hollow, enigmatic and incomplete. When explorers first opened it, they found not a golden relic, not a hidden chamber, but emptiness, a deliberate void. Was this the planned symbol of nirvana, the formless state beyond illusion? Or did it represent an abrupt interruption, a sacred space left unfinished because fate intervened? Geologists propose that Mount Merapi, the volatile volcano looming nearby, may hold the answer. Evidence suggests a massive eruption occurred around the same period the temple's final works were being completed. The sudden flow of ash and toxic gases could have forced the workers to flee, ending the construction in a single catastrophic event. The idea fits eerily well with the discovery of ash layers embedded within the temple's foundation stones. Yet others point out that the Sailendra dynasty itself vanished around the same time, replaced by rival powers and shifting religious beliefs. Perhaps the collapse of royal patronage, not the wrath of nature, silenced the chisels. But there are signs that something deeper was at play, a decision, not a disaster. Some archaeologists argue that the unfinished carvings were intentional, reflecting a philosophical principle: impermanence. In Buddhist art, perfection is often left incomplete, symbolizing that all forms are transient. Could it be that the final stage was meant to end in silence, leaving the temple eternally almost complete, as a metaphor for humans striving toward enlightenment? Still, traces of confusion remain. The uppermost stupas show inconsistent craftsmanship compared to the lower levels. The alignment of certain stones near the apex appears rushed, almost careless, a stark contrast to the mathematical precision below. These clues imply not a calm philosophical ending, but a sudden cessation. Something disrupted the plan. Whether war eruption or divine omen, we may never know. Imagine the scene. The mountain trembles. The skies darken. The priests call the workers to retreat as ash begins to fall. Half-carved stones, are left scattered on the terraces. Wooden scaffolds stand creaking in the wind. The echo of chanting fades as thousands descend the slopes, carrying their tools, their offerings, their unspoken fear. Behind them, the half-finished monument looms a silent witness to an empire's final breath. Days turn into years, and vines creep over the stones. The jungle swallows the site, preserving it in a natural tomb of green and ash. When Borobudur was rediscovered in the 19th century, British explorers described it as a mountain of stone asleep under the forest. They found entire chambers filled with hardened volcanic mud stairways buried under centuries of soil. It took decades to excavate, clean, and restore even part of its grandeur. Yet the question of why it was abandoned remained untouched, as though the temple itself refused to give up its final secret. There is also a haunting theory, whispered among local Javanese traditions, that the builders never truly left but were cursed to guard the temple for eternity. Folklore speaks of spirits wandering the upper terraces at night, their forms cloaked in mist, still waiting to finish what was begun. During the 20th century restoration, several workers reported hearing strange chants at dusk or seeing flickers of light within the central stupa. Some believed it was the temple's own energy, resisting disturbance, as if Borobudur was alive, aware, protective of its incompleteness. From a structural perspective, the halting of construction raises yet another mystery: the water drainage system. The final channels hidden within the stairways appear to have been designed but never fully connected. Engineers marvel at how such a massive monument survived without erosion, suspecting that the builders possessed advanced knowledge of hydrology. Yet if they had planned further improvements at the top, it means they understood the vulnerability of their own design and were interrupted before correcting it. Equally perplexing is the precision of the astronomical alignment. Each side of Borobudur corresponds almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, and the temple's elevation creates a visual illusion during sunrise and sunset, where light travels along specific corridors like celestial rivers. Some suggest the missing or incomplete carvings at the summit may have been part of a cosmic calendar, a system never finished due to the sudden halt. Could the final stupa have once held a reflective element or a sacred device similar to a sundial now forever lost? This moment of stillness, the moment the hammers stopped, defines Borobudur's enigma. It marks the boundary between human ambition and cosmic silence. Whether halted by catastrophe philosophy or destiny, the temple remains both finished and unfinished, a paradox carved in stone. In its completion lies imperfection. In its abandonment lies preservation. Had the builders continued, perhaps the temple would have been altered, even ruined by time. By stopping, they unintentionally immortalized it. More than 12 centuries later, the temple still stands serene under the Javanese sun, its stones breathing wisdom into the humid air. Tourists climb its terraces, monks walk its paths, and scholars debate its riddles. But no one can erase that moment in history, the pause, the silence, the mysterious decision to stop. The final stage of Borobudur remains a mirror of human existence itself, magnificent, unfinished, and forever yearning toward the divine. When archaeologists first uncovered the remains of Roman kilns scattered across Europe, from Britannia's fog-shrouded valleys to the arid plains of Hispania, they expected simple clay ovens for pottery and bricks. What they found instead were industrial masterpieces. Burned walls fused into glass warped to clay, hardened like modern ceramics, and traces of vitrified stone, all signs of temperatures that, according to every modern estimate, the ancient Romans should never have achieved. For centuries, historians viewed the Roman Empire as masters of architecture, law, and engineering. But beneath the marble columns and aqueducts lies a lesser-known marvel, their ability to summon heat so intense it defied the limits of their own age. These kilns, often buried and forgotten beneath collapsed bathhouses or abandoned brickworks, tell a story of technological sophistication that rivals our modern understanding of thermodynamics. If the ancient Romans truly achieved temperatures above 1400 degrees Celsius, far beyond the technology of their time, what do you think made it possible? Was it advanced airflow engineering, special fuel mixtures, or an ancient secret long lost to history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory about this mystery. At the core of this enigma is a question that continues to trouble archaeologists. How could Roman kilns reach temperatures beyond what their materials and even their fuels should have allowed? Tests conducted on residues from kilns in Ostia, Antica Pompeii, and Gaul revealed firing temperatures between 1200 and 1400 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, that's enough to melt bronze, deform iron, and partially liquefy stone. Yet the Romans were thought to have used only wood and charcoal, whose natural combustion limit hovers around 900 degrees Celsius under normal conditions. This discrepancy, hundreds of degrees beyond expectation, suggests either a lost method of forced combustion or an unknown enhancement to their fuels. Some researchers proposed that these artisans manipulated airflow with astonishing precision, creating natural blast furnaces centuries before the Industrial Revolution. Others went further, hinting that the Romans may have developed chemical accelerants or organic resins capable of sustaining ultra-high heat. Whatever the answer, the evidence is undeniable. The walls of many Roman kilns bear signs of vitrification, the transformation of clay and sand into glass. It is a phenomenon achievable only through prolonged exposure to temperatures rivaling those of a modern industrial furnace. To achieve such heat control was everything. Roman kilns weren't random pits filled with fire, they were mathematically designed machines. Most had two chambers, a lower combustion room, where the fire was fed, and an upper chamber where the pottery or bricks were stacked. Between them lay a network of narrow vents that distributed heat evenly. But the real genius lay beneath, in the air channels and subterranean tunnels that fanned the flames. Some of these channels were carved in a spiral pattern resembling the Venturi effect used in jet engines today, where constricting airflow increases its speed and intensity. As hot air surged upward, the pressure difference drew in fresh oxygen through side vents, creating a self-sustaining inferno. Archaeologists who reconstructed these designs discovered that when operated correctly, these ancient kilns could indeed exceed 1200 degrees Celsius and maintain that level for hours. What baffled modern engineers was not just the temperature, but the consistency. The Romans didn't simply reach high heat, they controlled it as if with a dial, producing perfectly uniform bricks, roof tiles, amphorae, and even colored glass. In some sites, researchers found gobs of fused sand, melted quartz, and slag byproducts of processes usually associated with metallurgy. This raised another question: were Roman kilns used solely for pottery, or had they also served as early metallurgical reactors? The empire's insatiable appetite for bronze, lead, and glass would have required massive furnaces, yet little evidence of dedicated foundries remains. Some scholars now believe that the kilns themselves may have doubled as multi-purpose heat centers capable of firing ceramics by day and smelting ores by night. Microscopic analysis of kiln residues revealed traces of copper, tin, and even manganese elements that don't belong in ordinary clay production. It appears the Romans experimented freely, combining materials to find new colors, strengths, and chemical effects. Their mastery of pozzolanic ash, volcanic sand, and lime the same ingredients that made Roman concrete nearly immortal might have extended into their furnace linings, creating a self-healing, heat-resistant composite that no modern replication has perfectly reproduced. If temperature is the heart of the mystery, fuel is its blood. Charcoal alone couldn't sustain such extremes. In southern Italy and Hispania, archaeologists found residues suggesting the addition of olive oil waste, pine resin, and even pitch substances that burn hotter and longer than wood. There are also hints that certain workshops used natural gas seeps, or peat, mixed with volcanic sulfur, effectively creating chemical superfires. These additives would have been discovered empirically through centuries of experimentation, passed down as guarded trade secrets among guilds of Roman artisans. The very concept of industrial secrecy may have originated here. Roman potters and metalworkers were organized into collegia professional associations that protected their methods. It is entirely plausible that formulas for fuel mixtures, firing schedules, or kiln geometries were recorded in lost manuals or taught only within families. The disappearance of such knowledge after the empire's collapse could explain why no medieval furnace matched the performance of its Roman predecessor for nearly 1,000 years. One of the most haunting discoveries comes from the ruins of Lyon, France, where a massive brick kiln, partially collapsed, preserved a layer of greenish glaze fused into its interior. Under a microscope, the glaze showed silicate crystals aligned in patterns identical to those formed at 350 degrees Celsius, higher than the melting point of many modern building materials. At the ancient port of Ostia, fragments of gabled roof tiles exhibited the same glassy sheen, suggesting they had been overfired, yet not destroyed, a sign of remarkable control. And at Silchester in Britain, excavators unearthed bricks so dense that they ringed like porcelain when struck. It is as if the Romans had learned to whisper to fire, commanding it to shape matter at the edge of physics. The deeper scientists study these kilns, the clearer it becomes that Roman engineers understood more than simple trial and error. Their designs show an awareness of thermal gradients, gas flow, and combustion efficiency that mirrors modern heat transfer principles. Whether they derive this through observation or through a codified system of empirical science is unknown. Some historians even suggest that the Roman concept of technique, the art of making, was closer to an applied science than we've assumed. Their architects could calculate the stresses on aqueduct arches. Why not the thermal load of a furnace? Perhaps they used proportional rules or ratios, encoding their knowledge in geometry rather than equations. The circular or oval layouts of kilns were not aesthetic choices, but functional ones designed to maximize circulation and reduce heat loss. The most dramatic evidence of their skill lies in the phenomenon of vitrification, the partial melting of bricks and clay into glassy crusts. This occurs only when the temperature and oxygen levels remain perfectly balanced for long durations. In several kilns, the transition layers between raw clay and glass suggest firing periods of up to 3 days, with minute adjustments to airflow to prevent collapse. Replicating these conditions today requires computer-controlled furnaces and continuous monitoring. The fact that Roman craftsmen achieved the same effect with nothing but intuition, smoke, and flame borders on the miraculous. It's as if their mastery of fire approached an art form, an ancient dialogue between human will and elemental force. Curiously, similar kiln architectures appear across the empire, from North Africa to Gaul, with consistent design features. That level of uniformity implies a shared blueprint, perhaps disseminated by military engineers or itinerant craftsmen. It also raises the possibility of an organized network of technical exchange, a proto-industrial system long before the term existed. If so, the Roman kilns were more than tools. They were nodes in a technological web that powered the empire's expansion, producing the bricks, pipes, amphorae, and glass that defined Roman civilization. And yet when Rome fell, that web dissolved, taking with it a mastery of heat that would not re-emerge until the furnaces of Renaissance Venice or the steel foundries of 18th century Europe. How did they do it? How did an empire without electricity thermometers or mechanical blowers generate heat rivaling modern industry? Each excavation adds new data, yet deepens the mystery. Were their materials enhanced by volcanic minerals unique to Italy? Did they accidentally stumble upon chemical catalysts now lost? Or did generations of craftsmen refine their methods through a lineage of observation so precise it amounted to unrecorded science? Whatever the answer, the Roman kilns stand as a silent testament to the boundless ingenuity of the ancient world. Their flames, long extinguished, still burn in the imagination, a reminder that even in the age of empires built on stone, it was fire that shaped the destiny of civilization. Among the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, where straight streets still bear the imprint of a vanished order, one mystery continues to haunt every archaeologist's mind: the role of women in the Indus Valley civilization. No other ancient culture of comparable scale left so few clues, yet evoked such deep questions about gender power and belief. In thousands of unearthed artifacts, from terracotta figurines to engraved seals, the silent image of the woman appears again and again, not as a background figure, but as a possible symbol of creation, fertility, and even divine authority. Yet despite decades of research, her true identity remains unknown. Was she a goddess, a queen, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you believe the mysterious woman of the Indus Valley really was? The Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 2600 and 1900 BCE, stretched across what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. It was one of the world's earliest urban cultures, characterized by sophisticated city planning, advanced sanitation systems, and large-scale trade networks. Yet unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, the Indus left behind no deciphered writings, no royal tombs, no records of kings or queens. Their language, etched into small seals, remains undeciphered. Their temples, if they existed, are lost. And so when we study the figurines and seals, we are forced to interpret symbols rather than words, and at the center of those symbols often stands a woman. The first clue to her importance came from the countless terracotta female figurines unearthed from Indus homes. Many depict a voluptuous woman with pronounced hips and breasts, adorned with jewelry, sometimes holding a child or a vessel. Archaeologists quickly drew parallels with later South Asian representations of the mother goddess, the eternal symbol of fertility and life. To many researchers, these figurines were evidence of a culture that revered the feminine as the source of all creation. They saw in the Indus world a society possibly built around the cycles of nature, where fertility, harvest, and renewal were celebrated through the female body. But the evidence does not end there. In several cases, seals, those small, intricate stone stamps used to mark goods and property, show a seated female figure surrounded by animals or in a posture of authority. Unlike the passive mother goddess figurines, these women sit upright, sometimes wearing elaborate headdresses, as though presiding over rituals or commanding devotion. Could these images represent priestesses, rulers, or deities? Without inscriptions, we cannot know. Yet the recurrence of this image across hundreds of sites suggests that this was no ordinary woman. She was a symbol, perhaps, of divine order, perhaps of real power. The absence of obvious royal monuments or male rulers in Indus society only deepens the mystery. No grand palaces have been found, no tombs filled with treasures, no depictions of kings in battle or ceremony. Some scholars have therefore proposed a startling idea that the Indus Valley may have been a matrilineal or even matriarchal society where inheritance and status passed through women, and where the feminine principle governed spiritual and social life. Others are more cautious, suggesting that women may have held ritual or symbolic power, even if not political dominance. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: the female presence in Indus art is far too prominent to be accidental. The famed dancing girl statue from Mohenjo-Daro adds another dimension to this enigma. Cast in bronze, the figure shows a young woman, standing confidently, one hand on her hip, adorned with bangles. Her stance radiates a sense of pride and individuality rarely captured in ancient art. She is not a goddess or mother, she is human, alive, self-aware. Through her, we glimpse a society where women may have enjoyed personal freedom, beauty, and expression. The dancing girl, though small in size, speaks volumes about the sophistication and dignity of Indus women. Yet for all these glimpses, the heart of the mystery lies elsewhere in the unbroken code of the Indus script. On dozens of seals, short lines of tiny symbols accompany the images of women, animals, or rituals. They may record names, titles, prayers, or transactions. If deciphered, these inscriptions could reveal whether the female figure was a goddess, a queen, or something altogether different. For now, we can only speculate. Some linguists believe that the language might have Dravidian roots and that the script could conceal references to Shakti, the feminine divine energy that later became central in Indian philosophy. If true, it would mean that the roots of feminine divinity in South Asia stretch back not thousands but 5 millennia. Other clues emerge from domestic artifacts. Mirrors, combs, beads, and cosmetics jars found in both male and female quarters suggest an attention to grooming and adornment that transcended gender, but especially among women. Jewelry of gold, carnelian, and shell has been discovered in great abundance, indicating not only a love for beauty, but also access to trade and wealth. There is no sign that women were secluded or secondary. Rather, the archaeological record points to a balanced social order, perhaps one where household and ritual life revolved around the matriarch. Still, one cannot ignore the shadow that hangs over this civilization, its sudden decline. Around 1900 BCE, the cities of the Indus began to wither. Climate change, shifting rivers, or invasion, whatever the cause, the people dispersed and the urban world crumbled. In the centuries that followed, the imagery of powerful women, the goddesses and seated figures, began to fade from South Asian iconography, replaced by male deities and warrior kings. Did this mark the end of a matriarchal age? Were the women of the Indus remembered as deities or erased from history altogether? The silence of the archaeological record offers no answer, only haunting possibilities. And yet, among all the figurines, seals, and broken stones, there is one recurring image that refuses to be forgotten: the woman on the seal. She sits calmly, sometimes between two lions, or surrounded by symbols of fertility and animals of power. Her face is serene, her posture commanding. Some call her the Proto-Durga, others the Great Mother, and a few even suggest she might represent a real historical ruler deified after death. The enigma of her identity transcends archaeology. It speaks to something deeper in human memory, the ancient recognition of the feminine as both creator and protector. If she was indeed a goddess, then the Indus Valley might have been among the earliest civilizations to center its faith around the feminine principle. If she was a ruler, then she may have been one of the world's first female sovereigns, predating queens of Egypt or Mesopotamia. And if she was both a queen who became divine, then she stands as a bridge between myth and history, between power and worship. Today, her image rests quietly in museum cases, her gaze unblinking, her symbols unread. Every seal, every figurine whispers fragments of her story, but none reveal her name. Perhaps the day the Indus script is finally deciphered, her identity will emerge not as a myth, but as a truth that could rewrite the narrative of human civilization. Until then, the woman on the seal remains both a mystery and a mirror, reflecting the lost reverence for the sacred feminine that once thrived in the heart of the ancient Indus. Who was she? A goddess of fertility, a queen of men, or a forgotten architect of one of humanity's earliest great societies? Until we can hear her language again, she will remain what she has always been, the silent sovereign of a vanished world. Deep within the ruins of Knossos on the island of Crete stands a single stone seat, modest in size, pale as bone carved from alabaster. It is known simply as the Minoan throne. Yet to archaeologists, historians, and those who study the mysteries of ancient civilizations, it is far more than a piece of furniture. It is a question carved in stone, a silent witness to a world that once flourished and then vanished. Discovered by Sir Arthur Evans in the early 1900s, the throne room of Knossos immediately stunned the world. It was older than any known throne in Europe, possibly older than those of Egypt's pharaohs or Mesopotamian kings. But the more scholars studied it, the more contradictions appeared, because nothing about this room, its structure, its decoration, or its atmosphere fits what we expect from a royal chamber. What do you think? Was this truly a royal throne or something far more spiritual? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you interpret the mystery of the Minoan throne. The space is small, enclosed, almost sacred. No grand hall for public decrees, no place for processions or guards. Instead, along the walls are low stone benches, as if meant for initiates or participants in a ritual. In the center, a shallow, sunken basin, sometimes called a lustral pool, lies mysteriously beside the throne, perhaps used for purification or symbolic immersion. But the basin's design defies practical logic. It has no drainage, no clear inlet, as if its function was not of the physical world, but of the spiritual one. When sunlight enters the chamber, it strikes the translucent alabaster, scattering light like ripples in water. The walls shimmer with faded frescoes of griffins, mythical guardians associated not with kingship, but with divine protection. Every detail from the carved stone to the painted symbols whispers of ritual, not rule. This was no council chamber, it was a sanctuary. For over a century, scholars have argued over who once sat upon that cold alabaster seat. Was it a king, perhaps the legendary Minos himself, whose name still echoes through Greek myth? Or was it someone else entirely? Someone whose existence has been forgotten, erased by the silence of time. Here lies the heart of the mystery. Because unlike the thrones of later Greek or Mycenaean rulers, the Minoan throne carries no emblem of masculine authority, no scepter, no crown, no lions of conquest. Instead, its motifs, the flowing lines, the gentle curves, the surrounding imagery of water and nature seem to speak of fertility, renewal, and divine femininity. These are not the symbols of war or empire. They are the emblems of creation. This has led many researchers to one of the most provocative theories in ancient archaeology, that the Minoan throne may not have belonged to a king at all, but to a high priestess, or even to the embodied image of the goddess herself. The Minoan civilization, flourishing between 2000 and 1450 BCE, was unlike any of its contemporaries. While other cultures built fortresses and weapons, the Minoans built palaces without walls. Their art celebrated life, sea, and nature, not war. And above all, it celebrated women. Frescoes show women leading processions, performing rituals, even holding serpents, powerful symbols of rebirth and divine energy. In this world, The seat of power may not have been a throne of domination, but a seat of communion with the sacred. If this is true, then the alabaster chair in Knossos could represent the central axis of Minoan spirituality, the place where mortal and divine met. The woman who sat upon it, perhaps dressed in layered robes and gold surrounded by flickering oil lamps and chanting acolytes, might have been both ruler and oracle, a living bridge between her people and their gods. Yet the identity of this mysterious figure remains beyond our reach. The Minoans left no readable texts. Their script, Linear A, has resisted every attempt at translation. Without words, we are left only with symbols, snakes, lilies, double axes, spirals, the silent vocabulary of a vanished faith. Some scholars propose that the figure on the throne could have been the goddess of nature, a divine mother ruling not through conquest, but through harmony. Others see her as a priestess, chosen to embody the goddess during rituals, perhaps only temporarily becoming the deity in sacred ceremony. A few even suggest that the Minoan throne was never meant to be sat upon by any human at all, that it was a symbolic seat, an empty vessel representing divine presence itself. If so, then what we see today, the empty alabaster seat in the dim light of Knossos, may quite literally be the throne of an invisible god forever waiting for her return. But why does this matter so much? Because it challenges everything we thought we knew about the origins of power. In nearly every ancient culture, thrones are linked to kingship, to male rulers who govern by command and conquest. Yet here in the heart of the Bronze Age, Aegean stands a throne that speaks another language, one of ritual renewal and spiritual authority. It forces us to rethink the roots of civilization itself. Perhaps the first great powers of Europe were not built by kings and warriors, but by priestesses and dreamers who ruled in the name of balance, not blood. Still, the story does not end there. For when the Mycenaean Ans, a more militarized people from mainland Greece, arrived around 1450 BCE, the Minoan world began to collapse. Their palaces burned, their art shifted, and the peaceful feminine imagery of old gave way to the symbols of war. It was as if the old gods had been dethroned and the world had turned to a new, harsher order. The alabaster throne survived that fire. It sits today in the ruins, cracked but intact, staring eternally at the wall, where two painted griffins still guard its sides. The Mycenaeans may have used it, may have tried to claim its sanctity, but something about it remains untouchable. Even stripped of its rituals and songs, the room still feels charged, as though the air itself remembers the voice that once echoed there. Thousands of years later, the throne room of Knossos still defies all explanation. Too symbolic to be political, too sacred to be ceremonial, it stands between power and faith, myth and history. Whoever once sat on that alabaster seat, priestess, goddess, or queen, remains unknown. Perhaps that is the point. The empty throne still rules, a silent reminder that mystery itself is the truest form of power. Even today, as we gaze upon that ancient alabaster seat, one question echoes through time. Who truly sat upon the throne of Knossos, and what did she or he see in the shadows of that sacred room? Perhaps until we decode the lost language of the Minoans, the answer will remain forever carved in stone. Before Rome raised its marble temples and carved the names of its emperors into stone, another civilization stood in quiet conversation with the cosmos, the Etruscans. They did not worship out of blind faith, they listened. To them, thunder was not mere sound, it was a voice. The flight of a bird was not random, it was a sign. Every breeze, every flash of lightning, every ripple across still water carried a divine message waiting to be read. In their eyes, the entire world was a living altar, and humankind was not separate from the gods, but part of a sacred exchange between earth and heaven. Long before Rome ruled men, the Etruscans believed they were walking among the whispers of eternity itself. Do you think the Etruscans truly heard the voices of the gods, or were they simply interpreting nature through their own genius? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Their priests, known as augurs and haruspices, spent their lives decoding these cosmic messages. When a lightning bolt struck the earth, they did not see coincidence, they saw intention. They marked the skies, divided them into 16 regions each, ruled by a god, each with a meaning so complex that even Roman scholars, centuries later, failed to understand it. Nothing important could happen without divine approval, founding a city, declaring war, or even plowing the first furrow of a field. Their rituals were exact, almost mathematical. A single misstep, a wrong chant, a misplaced gesture could nullify the entire ceremony. The Etruscans believed that the gods listened only to perfection. Their devotion was precise, disciplined, and eerily consistent with the patterns of the stars above them. What makes the Etruscan religion truly astonishing is not only its complexity, it's the mystery of its origin. Where did they learn such a structured cosmic way of worship? How did a people in pre-Roman Italy possess a system that mapped the heavens, calculated divine will, and aligned temples to celestial coordinates thousands of years before the telescope was even imagined? The Romans themselves admitted our religion was taught to us by the Etruscans. Yet the Etruscans left no sacred texts that survive, only fragments known as the Etrusca Disciplina, later translated and partially absorbed by Rome. The rest vanished, burned or buried with their priests, taking with them an entire world of sacred science. Many scholars once assumed that the Etruscans had simply borrowed their gods and rituals from neighboring civilizations, like the Greeks or Phoenicians. Yet, the more archaeologists uncover, the more that assumption begins to crumble. Beneath the soil of central Italy, evidence reveals a belief system far older and more intricate than imitation could explain. Their priests read the will of the gods through thunder, lightning, and the flight of birds centuries before such practices appeared in Greece. Their temples were not just places of worship, but instruments of cosmic precision, aligned with solstices and constellations as if charting the rhythm of the universe itself. The Etruscans divided the heavens into exact regions, mapping divine order onto the very structure of the sky. It was a form of sacred geometry, mathematical and spiritual, at once suggesting a forgotten astronomical wisdom that seemed to appear from nowhere, knowledge too advanced for its time, and still without a clear source. Some ancient writers, including Herodotus, believed that the Etruscans were once migrants from Lydia, a kingdom in western Anatolia, forced to sail westward by famine until they reached the Italian coast. This legend has long fascinated historians, especially since modern genetics and linguistic clues seem to echo faint connections between the two peoples. Yet the deeper scholars look, the more the story begins to feel incomplete. The Etruscans possessed a level of ritual precision and cosmic order unseen in Lydia. Their ceremonies, calculated according to the stars, their temples aligned with the paths of the sun and moon, their gods arranged in perfect symmetry across the heavens. Such sophistication suggests not a borrowed faith, but a carried memory, fragments of an older forgotten wisdom brought across the sea. Whether born from Anatolia or an even earlier source, the Etruscan religion bears the fingerprints of a vanished civilization whose light still flickers through their sacred geometry. In recent decades, new archaeological discoveries have revealed Etruscan inscriptions bearing symbols that do not belong to any known Indo-European tradition. Some of these carvings, especially those related to ritual calendars, show astonishing familiarity with lunar cycles, equinoxes, and stellar paths, concepts we associate with Mesopotamian or even Egyptian traditions. Yet there is no evidence of direct contact. It's as though the Etruscans were echoing a lost system, something ancient and global that had already faded by their time. Their funerary art deepens the enigma. Inside tombs, the Etruscans painted entire cosmologies, stars, gates, underworld spirits, and psychopomps guiding souls beyond the veil. The gods of death, Vanth and Charon, are not merely demons or angels. They are cosmic agents, enforcing balance between the seen and unseen. Every death was not an ending, but a transition through a doorway meticulously guided by divine law. Such imagery resonates with Egyptian Book of the Dead scenes, yet it evolved independently centuries later on Italian soil. Perhaps the most haunting mystery lies in their sense of impermanence. Unlike the Egyptians, who sought immortality, the Etruscans seemed to accept mortality as part of divine order. Their religion was not about escaping death, but understanding it, treating it as one more sign to be interpreted, another message from the gods. They built tombs shaped like houses, filled them with art, food, and music, not to cling to life, but to reflect the eternal conversation between the human and the divine. And so the question remains, who first whispered to the Etruscans, who taught them that thunder was a language, that the sky could be divided into sacred geometry, that life and death were mirror halves of the same pattern? Did they inherit it from an older world, perhaps a seafaring people from the dawn of the Bronze Age, whose temples once aligned with the stars? Or was it born entirely from their own insight, a spiritual evolution so advanced that later civilizations could only imitate it? No matter how many artifacts we unearth, the voice of the Etruscan gods remains silent. Their language, partly decoded, still hides meanings that no scholar can fully grasp. Their books of prophecy are gone, their temples turned to dust, their rituals reduced to Roman echoes. And yet the imprint of their faith, this idea that the universe speaks, if only we learn to listen, still lingers through the corridors of Western religion. In the end, the Etruscan religion is not merely an ancient curiosity. It is a mirror reflecting our eternal desire to understand the forces beyond our comprehension. They looked up to the same stars we do now, believing that every flicker of light carried a divine intent. Maybe they were wrong, or maybe they were the last people who truly listened. Deep beneath the Aegean Sea, between Crete and the Peloponnese, lies a shipwreck that has slept for over 2,000 years, a ghost from the ancient world, carrying treasures, statues, and a secret that defies time. When divers first found it, they didn't realize they were uncovering a discovery that would challenge everything we know about history. Hidden among the ruins was not gold or jewels, but a bronze machine, precise, complex, and far beyond its age. This is the story of the Antikythera shipwreck and its impossible creation, a 2,000-year-old device so advanced that scientists would later call it the world's first computer. How could the ancients have built something the modern world can barely comprehend? Could ancient civilizations have possessed technology far beyond what history tells us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read your theories. It all began in 1900 when a group of Greek sponge divers were exploring the Aegean Sea. During one deep dive, about 50 meters below the surface, a diver named Elias Stadiatos glimpsed an unbelievable sight under the dim blue light. Bronze statues of humans covered in algae scattered across the sea floor. When he resurfaced, gasping from the pressure, his first words were, "There's a cemetery of statues down there." No one knew that this chance encounter would lead to one of the earliest and most significant underwater excavations in archaeological history. Over the following years, with the help of the Greek Navy divers and archaeologists, recovered hundreds of artifacts from the wreck: magnificent bronze statues, heads of Zeus and Heracles, marble figures, ceramics, jewelry, and even human remains. Studies revealed that it was an ancient Greek merchant ship, dating to around the 1st century BCE, sailing from Rhodes or Pergamon to Rome, likely carrying luxurious artworks as gifts for a Roman official. Yet among the corroded ruins, they found a small lump of bronze, seemingly a fragment of some mechanical device. Few paid attention at first, until over 50 years later, scientists discovered it was no ordinary piece of metal. It was the heart of a machine far ahead of its time. When scientists first placed the corroded lump of bronze under X-ray and CT scanners in the late 20th century, what they saw defied belief. Beneath the crust of marine deposits appeared a network of interlocking gears, perfectly cut-aligned and engineered with a precision unheard of in the ancient world. As layer after layer was revealed, they identified 37 gears, each crafted to an accuracy of mere fractions of a millimeter. Around them, faint Greek inscriptions described celestial movements and mathematical cycles. It was a revelation this was not a random artifact, but a mechanical model of the cosmos. When digitally reconstructed, the device proved capable of predicting solar and lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, and even the timing of ancient Olympic Games. 2,000 years before the first European clock, someone had built a machine that mirrored the heavens, a creation so advanced it forced history itself to be questioned. To grasp how extraordinary this construction was, imagine each gear being cut with precision, finer than half a millimeter, perfectly interlocking along tiny shafts. The gear ratios represented the 19-year Metonic cycle of the Moon, the 223-month Saros cycle, and the 76-year Callippic cycle, all astronomical calculations requiring advanced mathematical knowledge. One face displayed a lunar calendar with changing phases of the Moon, while the reverse showed a complex time map predicting Olympic events, all powered by a single bronze hand crank. What's astonishing is that nothing comparable existed in the ancient world. Before this discovery, historians believed that intricate gear systems only appeared in the 14th century with medieval European clockwork. The Antikythera mechanism overturned that belief entirely. It proved that the ancient Greeks possessed a mastery of precision engineering over 500 years ahead of their time. Its gears, axles, and inscriptions reflected a deep understanding of geometry, celestial mechanics, and mathematical modeling achievements only found in the most advanced civilizations. The question of who built the Antikythera mechanism remains one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. Some historians point to Archimedes of Syracuse, the legendary inventor whose writings describe devices that could model the movements of celestial bodies, suggesting that this machine may have been based on his lost designs. Others credit the school of Hipparchus, the brilliant astronomer who first calculated the Moon's irregular orbit and might have provided the mathematical foundation behind the gear ratios. A third theory traces its origin to Alexandria, the scientific capital of the Hellenistic world, where mathematicians, engineers, and philosophers once collaborated under the light of the Great Library. Yet despite these possibilities, not a single ancient manuscript mentions such a device, nor has any similar mechanism ever been found. The Antikythera mechanism stands utterly alone, a technological orphan, without a lineage or successor, a reminder that somewhere in the distant past, a spark of genius briefly illuminated the world, only to vanish without explanation. The deeper scientists examined the Antikythera mechanism, the more it defied all logic. How could artisans from over 2,000 years ago cut gears so minuscule and precise without lathes, micrometers, or modern machining tools? Each tooth of every gear was shaped with almost mathematical perfection, aligned so smoothly that it rivaled the craftsmanship of 18th century clockmakers. Even the inscription's faint Greek letters etched along the bronze plates are so small and intricate that modern researchers require electron microscopes to read them, though magnifying lenses were unknown in antiquity. The materials, too, tell a story. The alloy composition, the measured symmetry, and the deliberate ratios reveal not crude experimentation, but an advanced, disciplined tradition of engineering. Many scholars now believe the device could not have been an isolated miracle. It bears the mark of refinement, the kind that emerges only after generations of accumulated knowledge. Perhaps it was the last creation of a forgotten school of mechanics, wiped out as wars, fires, and the fall of empires consumed the libraries that once safeguarded their secrets. If so, the mechanism is not just a machine. It is the final heartbeat of a lost technological civilization, preserved by the sea, until the modern world was finally ready to notice its genius. Since 2012, new excavations using robotic submersibles and 3D sonar mapping have revealed even more pottery bronze statues and human bones, possibly from the ship's crew. Some portions of the wreck remain buried in sand, leading experts to believe that more fragments of the Antikythera mechanism still lie hidden below. Each year, new imaging techniques are used to see through the encrusted rock, hoping to uncover the missing planetary dials or original design blueprints. What makes this device impossible isn't just its mechanics, it's the mindset behind it. It was not a toy nor a ritual object. It was a miniature cosmos, built on the belief that humans could understand and replicate the workings of the universe through reason and mathematics. This was the seed of modern science, carved into bronze over 2,000 years ago, a kind of intellectual DNA that we once thought belonged only to the age of Galileo or Newton. Like many great stories, it vanished without a trace. No one copied it, no one recorded its secrets. Perhaps war disaster, or time itself, erased its knowledge. Centuries later, humanity had to start over, rebuilding gears, clocks, and machines from nothing. Today, the Antikythera mechanism in Athens stands not just as an artifact, but as a challenge proof that ancient minds once reached astonishing heights. Its corroded gears still turn not for the sun or moon, but for the spirit of human curiosity. Somewhere beneath the waves, its missing pieces may still rest, waiting to remind us that history's greatest genius might have come far earlier than we think. Buried beneath centuries of earth and silence, a strange bronze helmet emerged from the soil of the Balkans, its surface still gleaming faintly after nearly 3,000 years. To archaeologists, it wasn't just another relic of war, but a message from a forgotten world, the ancient Greco-Illyrian helmet. Born at the crossroads of Greek and Illyrian civilizations, it carried within its metal the story of an era where battle ritual and craftsmanship fused into one. Perfectly shaped from a single sheet of bronze, it defied the limits of ancient technology, a silent testament to a people whose knowledge of fire and metal may have rivaled even our own. If ancient metallurgy was truly this advanced, do you think we might be underestimating the intelligence of ancient people? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Historians once believed this helmet originated in the Peloponnese around the 8th century BC and later spread north through warfare and trade. But as more similar finds appeared in Albania, Montenegro, and Croatia, lands of the ancient Illyrians, the story grew uncertain. Who truly created the design? The Greeks famed for philosophy and art, or the Illyrians, fierce mountain warriors of the Balkans? To this day, no answer is definitive. At first glance, the Greco-Illyrian helmet seems plain less ornate than the Corinthian helmets of Greek hoplites, lacking mythic engravings or elaborate crests. Yet closer inspection reveals something astonishing. Its body was hammered from a single sheet of bronze, seamless, unwelded, with perfectly even thickness across its surface. For a pre-Iron Age society, without precision tools or stable, high-temperature furnaces, shaping such a flawless shell that fit tightly around a human head was a near-impossible feat. What astonishes researchers most is the alloy composition of the helmet. Modern analysis reveals that the bronze contains about 9–11% in a perfect ratio that makes the metal both strong and flexible, with exceptional resistance to corrosion, comparable to modern industrial alloys. Yet over 700 years ago, when people only had clay furnaces and charcoal fuel, achieving such precise proportions would have been nearly impossible. How could ancient craftsmen control temperature, remove impurities, and balance the metal's composition with such accuracy? Could it be that they possessed a form of metallurgical intelligence long lost to history? Some scholars believe the Illyrians may have inherited metallurgical secrets from the copper-tin mines of the Dinaric Alps, where these two rare ores intersected. They might have developed special techniques relying on the color and sound of the metal when struck to gauge its purity, a kind of sensory knowledge that required no measuring tools. Meanwhile, other researchers argue that behind these helmets lies evidence of a vanished technological civilization, one that once possessed advanced foundries, now buried beneath the war's time and soil of the ancient Balkan landscape. When lasers were cast over these helmets, curved bronze striations appeared, evidence of rotational hammering and even pressure, resembling modern metal spinning. No crude hammer marks, no seams, only smooth, reflective surfaces. Perhaps the craftsmen used wooden or leather mallets, tapping rhythmically to compact the bronze without fracturing its crystalline structure. Scientists call this prehistoric metallurgical intelligence, a domain we've only begun to comprehend. Some helmets were silver-plated or thinly gilded, not merely for aesthetics, but possibly to prevent oxidation or denote high status. The coatings, only a few microns thick, adhered firmly through millennia, proof of precise surface control. The artisans may have used natural sulfate or silver salts to trigger electrochemical bonding, a process only described scientifically 2,000 years later. Another mystery lies in their distribution. Hundreds have been found from southern Greece to the Adriatic coast, yet no major foundries have been discovered. Were they forged in one secret center, then traded as emblems of tribal power, or did each clan guard its own metallurgical secrets as sacred heritage? Some scholars now see this as Europe's first metal network, a fusion of commerce, faith, and warfare linking the ancient Balkan peoples. Many Greco-Illyrian helmets unearthed in tombs show no dents or battle scars, suggesting ceremonial rather than military use. Some graves held clay heads or effigies wearing the helmets, surrounded by pottery and ritual weapons, scenes echoing a belief that a warrior's soul must be protected by bronze to cross into the afterlife. Small holes near the ears or nape, once thought for hearing, may instead have held charms or leather cords connecting the wearer to Ares or ancestral spirits. Several helmets bear enigmatic markings, unlike known Greek or Illyrian scripts. The shallow, repetitive lines form geometric patterns more like codes than words. Some interpret them as tribal emblems, others as protective charms etched in a metallic language, prayers to divine guardians. None have been fully deciphered. These are voices frozen in bronze echoes of a vanished civilization. The true marvel remains the engineering. Each helmet was strong, yet astonishingly light, roughly 1.2 to 1.4 kilograms, enough for protection without hindrance. The thickness was greatest at the crown, tapering toward cheeks and neck, evidence of deliberate stress distribution. Such equilibrium could not be accidental. It was the legacy of generations of craftsmen refining metalwork through intuition. Archaeologists call it the silent art of metallurgy. No blueprints, no records, yet mastery beyond imitation. Microscopic studies reveal a process akin to heat treating and differential quenching. The outer surface cooled faster than the core, forming a hard shell around a softer interior, much like multi-layered Japanese blades. This gave the helmet both rigidity and flexibility. How could 7th century BC artisans achieve this without thermometers? Perhaps by instinct, watching the glowing hues shift from red to orange to yellow, an art guided by sight and rhythm rather than formulas. Further analysis shows that some helmets were polished with crushed quartz or iron oxide, producing a mirror-like sheen and resistance to corrosion. That faint oxidized layer preserved their golden luster for over 2 millennia underground. Modern metallurgists have tried to replicate it. Few have matched the same smoothness and endurance. Those craftsmen understood matter in ways we've forgotten, one archaeologist remarked. They lacked equations, but possessed intuition, and intuition cannot be replaced by science. This mastery of metallurgy turned the Greco-Illyrian helmet into more than armor. It became a symbol of a civilization poised between science and myth. It protected not only the warrior's head, but also a people's memory, their skill, their pride, and their belief that metal had a soul. In its tarnished bronze today, we still glimpse the hammer's rhythm and the fire's breath traces of hands that once transformed earth and ore into immortality. Though hundreds of these helmets now rest in museums, their full secret remains unsolved. Perhaps the knowledge perished with the last of those smiths. Or perhaps deep beneath the Balkans, an ancient forge still sleeps, where fire and hammer once shaped divine-headed warriors of metal. Until that place is found, the ancient Greco-Illyrian helmet endures as a question without an answer. Did the ancients understand metal and themselves far better than we dare to believe? In the burning sands of Abydos, archaeologists recently uncovered a tomb that has rewritten everything we thought we knew about Egypt's earliest kings. It wasn't the tomb of a pharaoh, it was the tomb of a woman, Meretneith. And inside it, buried for more than 5 millennia, lay clues to one of the strangest, most enigmatic stories in human history. The excavation began as a routine mission by the German Archaeological Institute, part of a long-term survey of early dynastic graves. But when they unearthed the seal impressions and hieroglyphs bearing the name Meretneith, they realized this was no ordinary burial. Her resting place stood among the tombs of kings, constructed with precision and grandeur that rivaled royalty. It was as if someone had deliberately placed her among gods. What do you think, was Meretneith truly Egypt's first female ruler, or something even greater? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Meretneith's tomb dates back to around 2900 BCE, the very dawn of Egypt's first dynasty. Yet it defies the norms of its era in nearly every way. While most women of that period were buried in modest family plots, Meretneith's burial complex was a city unto itself, a central chamber surrounded by over 40 subsidiary graves, complete with storage rooms offering pits and one of the oldest known wine cellars in the world. Each jar, perfectly sealed with resin and clay, still contained traces of ancient wine, a mixture of grapes, herbs, and tree sap. Some even had intact corks, made from imported cedar resin, proof of early trade with the Levant. These weren't just funerary offerings. They represented wealth, technology, and international connection that should not have existed at such an early stage of civilization. More astonishing still, her name appeared in royal contexts, engraved on official jars, stamped on clay seals, and even listed beside the king's jet and den. This suggested something previously unthinkable, that Meretneith might have ruled Egypt. When the team discovered the vast wine storage rooms, they realized they were standing before the earliest evidence of mass beverage production known to history. 300 jars were found in orderly rows, the residue within them still showing traces of fermented grapes, figs, and hints of honey. Chemical analysis revealed that these wines were imported or produced using complex methods far beyond the local capability of the time. The wine cellar itself was carefully ventilated, constructed with channels that kept the chambers cool and dry, a feat of engineering nearly impossible for 2900 BCE. To the ancient Egyptians, wine wasn't simply a drink, it was sacred. It symbolized life, vitality, and communion with the gods. To bury such quantities with one person spoke volumes about their status. Merit-Neith was not only royal, she was divine. Around her burial chamber lay 41 smaller tombs. Each one contained the remains of servants, guards, and attendants, all buried simultaneously. No signs of disease, no signs of violence. They were ritual sacrifices, likely killed or voluntarily entombed to accompany their queen into eternity. It's a haunting image, a society so devoted to its leader that dozens would give up their lives to serve her beyond death. This mass ritual hints at an absolute authority, one rarely granted to women in early ancient Egypt. Who was she that her will could command such loyalty? The structure of Merit-Neith's tomb continues to baffle archaeologists today. Though built merely from sun-dried mud bricks, its walls have remained intact for more than 5 millennia, resisting the wind and sand of the desert without collapse. The foundation was reinforced with multiple layers and equipped with a hidden drainage system beneath precisely angled corridors, proof that its builders understood gravity, ventilation, and water flow far beyond their time. Several passageways are perfectly aligned with the North Star, revealing a fusion of astronomy and architecture that would only reappear centuries later in the pyramids. The entire layout displays near-perfect symmetry, as if calculated with modern measuring instruments. Archaeologists now call it the first blueprint of the Pyramid Age, a prototype for the monumental structures later raised at Saqqara and Giza. If this theory is true, then Merit-Neith was not merely a witness to Egypt's early history, she was the one who shaped it. This is where the mystery deepens and where scholars begin to disagree. Was she truly the first female ruler of Egypt, or something even greater? Officially, Egyptologists identify Merit-Neith as the mother of King Den, suggesting she ruled as regent until her son came of age. But the evidence inside her tomb tells a different story. Her name appears within royal cartouches, an honor typically reserved for reigning pharaohs. Administrative seals refer to her as she who presides over the kingship, a title never used for a mere regent. And in the nearby tomb of Den, her name is invoked as that of a divine protector, implying posthumous worship. Some researchers, like Dr. Jana Jones of Macquarie University, have proposed that Merit-Neith was not simply a queen mother, but Egypt's first female pharaoh, ruling in her own right, predating Hatshepsut by over 1,000 years. But there's a more esoteric theory, one that borders on myth. Ancient inscriptions link Merit-Neith's name with the goddess Neith, one of the oldest deities in the Egyptian pantheon, associated with creation, warfare, and weaving the fabric of reality itself. Neith was called the Mother of the Gods, who was there at the beginning. If Merit-Neith's name means beloved of Neith, some Egyptologists believe it was not merely a name, but a title of embodiment, marking her as a living vessel or avatar of the goddess. Could it be that her followers considered her a divine being, a bridge between the human and celestial realms that might explain the sacrificial burials, the celestial alignment of her tomb, and the vast quantities of sacred wine meant to sustain her spirit? One chilling hypothesis suggests that Merit-Neith might never have been an individual at all, but rather a ritual identity assumed by successive priestesses to maintain the illusion of divine continuity. Her tomb then would not mark one woman's death, but the birth of a dynasty of living goddesses. After her reign, history grew silent. No texts describe her deeds, No monuments bear her face. It's as though the sands of Egypt swallowed her memory on purpose, as if her power had to be forgotten. Later, dynasties rewrote history, glorifying male kings and erasing women from the line of succession. Meretneith became a ghost, a forbidden name, whispered only in funerary rituals. And yet her tomb remained untouched, undisturbed, waiting beneath the desert for millennia. When the archaeologists opened it, they found not chaos, but order. Not decay, but design. Every brick, every jar, every symbol still spoke of a civilization that saw death, not as an ending, but a continuation of divinity. So who was Meretneith? A mother regent guiding Egypt's first kings, a queen who dared to rule in an age of gods and men, or a vessel for something far older, the manifestation of Neith herself, the goddess of creation, reborn in mortal form. The truth remains buried under layers of time and belief, but in every ancient jar of wine, every servant's grave, and every perfectly aligned wall of her tomb, there lingers an echo, a voice from the dawn of civilization, whispering that power, wisdom, and mystery once wore a woman's face. Today, Meretneith's tomb is being restored and studied, yet the deeper scientists dig, the less they seem to understand. Dating analyses and 3D reconstructions revealed that this monument does not belong to a primitive age, but to a civilization far more advanced and spiritual than imagined. The story of Meretneith is not merely about a tomb, it is about the birth of divine power, where the boundary between human and God fades beneath the golden sands of Abydos. Deep within the jungles of Central America, where ancient temples have turned to dust, and the wind still carries whispers of the past, archaeologists uncovered glowing faces in the dark, the jade funeral masks of the Maya. Each was assembled from hundreds of flawless jade fragments crafted with a precision modern technology can barely replicate. More than mere burial offerings, these masks were gateways between life and death, proof of the mysterious knowledge of a civilization that once touched eternity. And even after thousands of years, those jade faces remain shining softly in the darkness as if defying time itself. Could it be possible that the Maya knew a forgotten technique, something that allowed them to shape jade with precision we still can't explain today? Share what you think in the comments below. To the Maya, jade was not just stone. It was the breath of life, the blood of the earth. In ancient Mayan, jade was called Yaxchel, the green heart, symbolizing rebirth and immortality. When a person died, their breath left the body, and so a piece of jade was placed in the mouth to keep the soul within. The jade mask became the new face of the spirit, the visage it would wear in the afterlife. But what astonished archaeologists was not only this spiritual belief, but also how the Maya turned a stone harder than steel into flawless mosaics that seem almost laser-cut. Jadeite, the sacred stone of the Maya, is one of the hardest materials on Earth, rated 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs scale, nearly as tough as quartz and only slightly softer than diamond. Yet thousands of years ago, the Maya managed to carve it into thin, mirror-smooth fragments so precise that modern microscopes can barely detect the seams between them. What makes this astonishing is that the Maya had no metal tools. They knew nothing of iron, copper, or steel. Their artisans worked only with stone, water, and sand, yet somehow achieved a level of craftsmanship that even modern lapidary experts find difficult to reproduce. Experiments by archaeologists attempting to copy the process using primitive tools have all ended in failure. Jadeite is too dense to be cut by friction alone. Grinding one small piece can take weeks, and even then, the surface remains rough, dull, and uneven. In contrast, the funerary mask of King Pakal the Great, found in Palenque, is composed of over 200 jade fragments, each one polished to a glass-like sheen and aligned so perfectly that light passes through the joints without a hint of distortion. Such precision suggests a technique that defies conventional understanding. Did the Maya discover a method to soften or reshape stone, perhaps using heat vibration or some lost alchemical process? Or was their knowledge of mineral resonance far greater than we realize, allowing them to work jade as if it were clay? These questions continue to haunt archaeologists, standing as a silent reminder that ancient hands once achieved what modern science still struggles to explain. Pacal's mask, made for a ruler worshipped as the god of rebirth, is the ultimate proof of Mayan mastery. Each jade tile was geometrically shaped to align flawlessly with the contours of a real human face, lips, nose, cheekbones, even faint wrinkles. There is no glue, no frame, only meticulous alignment, calculated to microscopic precision. Experts compare this craftsmanship to the fitting of the stones in the Egyptian pyramids or the Inca walls of Peru, where massive stones, weighing tons, join without mortar. But here the perfection exists on a miniature scale of mere centimeters, making it exponentially harder. A single misalignment could ruin the symmetry entirely, yet the Maya repeated this feat over centuries. Some researchers theorize they might have used a quartz sand or obsidian dust slurry to erode jade or pyrite tools sharp enough to rival metal blades. Still, none of these explain the mirror-like polish or the smooth flowing curves that today would require precision machinery. A more daring hypothesis suggests the Maya understood resonance and vibration. Their temples display remarkable acoustic engineering stairways that echo like the call of the sacred Quetzal bird chambers that amplify the hiss of a serpent. Some archaeologists propose that jade might have been softened through sound or hydraulic vibration, altering its crystal lattice without mechanical force. Though unproven, the idea fascinates scholars because the Maya linked all rituals to sound and rhythm. In their cosmology, everything sings stone water, even the human soul. If they truly harness sound to shape matter, then these masks are eternal songs carved in stone, the moment when music became breath. Beyond technical brilliance, the jade masks embody the Mayan concept of rebirth. Upon death, a king's spirit had to cross Xibalba, the perilous underworld, to reunite with the sun god. The mask, shining green like the color of life, was a celestial guide to help the soul remember the way home. Eyes inlaid with seashell or obsidian symbolized the vision beyond death, while jade lips represented the final words spoken to the gods. The physical face was a mortal shell. The jade mask was the true face of the spirit, crafted so perfectly that the soul would never lose its form in eternity. Many masks were found surrounded by hundreds of jade beads arranged in constellations, Orion, Venus, the rising sun. Each mask may have served as an astronomical chart, guiding the soul through the cosmos. Some masks blend human, divine, and animal traits, suggesting that the deceased became a sacred hybrid, being a guardian of cosmic domains. Chemical analysis of certain masks revealed traces of human blood, implying their use in sacrificial or revival rites. To the Maya, blood, the essence of life, could activate the spiritual power of jade, transforming the mask into a living vessel capable of carrying a soul through Xibalba. A stunning discovery shows that some masks were crafted decades before their owners were born. They were preordained relics for future kings, as if the Maya could foresee destiny. Each jade fragment carried symbolic origins. Jade from the east, for light; from the west, for death; from the south, for rebirth. When assembled, they formed a cosmic cycle of life, death, and renewal, mirroring the eternal rhythm of the universe. Even with today's lasers and electron microscopes, researchers still cannot fully reproduce a jade mask using only ancient methods. The flawless joints, the lustrous polish, and the color's endurance for over 300 years remain unmatched. Scientists have admitted, we are not just looking at art, we are looking at the remnants of a lost science. Like the pyramids of Kukulkan or the observatories of Uxmal, the jade masks stand as windows into forgotten wisdom, fragments of an ancient intelligence that once understood the harmony between matter-spirit and the stars. Thousands of years after Mayan kings turned to dust, their jade faces remain intact, silent, impossibly beautiful. No metal has corroded, no fracture has appeared. The green stone still glows like rainforest dew, as if even time itself bows before the hands that shaped it. For the Maya, death was rebirth, stone was soul, and jade was the memory of the universe. Each mask tells not only the story of the one buried beneath, but also the pride of a civilization that dared to surpass the limits of matter to touch immortality. Perhaps hidden within every perfect line of jade lies a message to the modern world. Humanity becomes immortal only when it creates something that time cannot destroy. Hidden beneath the dense jungles of Central and South America lie the silent echoes of two extraordinary worlds, the Maya and the Amazonian civilizations. Separated by thousands of kilometers, by mountains, rivers, and time itself, yet somehow they seem to hum the same forgotten melody. A story written not in ink or stone, but in geometry, soil, and stars. For centuries, scholars believed the Amazon was an untouched wilderness, too wild to host cities, too hostile for civilization. Meanwhile, the Maya were seen as a singular miracle of the tropics, a people who somehow defied the odds to build pyramids in the rainforest. But now, with new eyes, satellite scans, LiDAR mapping, and modern archaeology, both worlds are revealing a shared secret. Neither jungle was ever truly wild. They were engineered, designed, and guided by hands far more ancient than we ever imagined. What do you think about this theory? Could the ancient Maya and the people of the Amazon have once been two branches of a single mother civilization that vanished from human history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe it's just coincidence or evidence of an ancient global knowledge that once connected us all? In the lowland jungles of the Maya, the seemingly endless canopy hides an entire forgotten world. Beneath those leaves lie enormous city-stepped pyramid stone causeways linking ceremonial plazas and intricate reservoirs that once flowed like the lifeblood of a living organism. Thanks to LiDAR technology, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of hidden structures, revealing a complex urban network that once sustained millions of people. Across the continent, the Amazon rainforest tells a similar story. Circular earthworks, ceremonial mounds, and geometric formations have begun to emerge, all connected by ancient roads, cutting through the forest, forming cities with clear design and orientation. From above, they reflect the same symmetry and order found in Maya architecture. Up close, each mound and canal seems to whisper of a deliberate human hand, blending mathematics, spirituality, and celestial knowledge. Could it be that between these two distant jungles, separated by thousands of miles, there once existed a shared language of geometry and urban soul, preserved by generations long vanished from history? The Maya were true masters of stone. They not only built immense limestone pyramids, but achieved an almost impossible level of precision in every fitted block structures that have withstood thousands of years of storms, proving a technical sophistication far ahead of their time. Far to the south, the peoples of the Amazon mastered the very earth itself. Lacking stone to build with, they created terra preta, an artificial black soil that has remained fertile for millennia. This mixture made from biochar bones, bark, and organic matter through a mysterious process of controlled burning and fermentation is something modern science still cannot fully replicate. One side shaped stone to endure time, the other nurtured soil to renew forever. Both reveal a profound understanding of nature's laws, chemistry, and ecological balance far beyond what we usually attribute to the ancient world. Perhaps they had discovered a language of matter, a form of knowledge that bound humanity to the living planet itself. Both civilizations lived by the heavens. The Maya aligned their temples with the sun's solstices and Venus's orbit, embedding the cosmos into architecture. In the Amazon, the Stonehenge of Rio Grande aligns perfectly with celestial events, suggesting sky worship observation and ritual. Different materials, same purpose. Different skies, same gaze. It's as though both peoples inherited an ancient astronomical grammar passed down not through conquest or contact, but through memory. The Maya developed an advanced irrigation and agricultural system unlike anything seen in the ancient world. They built vast networks of canals, terraced fields, and massive reservoirs to store water during the dry season and regulate flow during the rains. These structures not only sustained life, but also allowed forests and farmland to naturally regenerate, creating a stable man-made ecosystem that lasted for centuries. On the other side of the continent, ancient Amazonian peoples did much the same. They raised fields, guided water through interlaced ditches, and managed forests in ecological cycles. They did not burn the jungle to claim land. Instead, they transformed it into a colossal garden where plants, animals, and humans coexisted in balance. Both civilizations reveal a shared philosophy: nature is not meant to be conquered, but collaborated with. To them, the earth was a living being, and true technology was the art of living in harmony with the planet's own breath. Recent genetic studies reveal faint links traces of shared ancestry or migration between early Amazonian and Mesoamerican peoples. Fragments of ceramics and agricultural crops found across regions suggest trade routes far older than recorded history. Perhaps the jungle itself was once a highway of life, connecting north and south through rivers and coastlines long before the Inca or Aztec empires arose. If so, then the idea of isolation collapses. Instead, what emerges is a vision of a Pan-American civilization, one consciousness, fragmented by distance but united by knowledge. As scholars delve deeper into the striking parallels between the Maya and Amazonian civilizations, they begin to confront one of the most controversial hypotheses in modern archaeology. Could both cultures be remnants of a single mother civilization, a unified culture that existed long before written history began? This theory, known as the Proto-American civilization, suggests that a prehistoric society may once have stretched from the Yucatan Peninsula to the Andes Mountains, flourishing long before Egypt or Mesopotamia ever rose. The evidence hidden within the jungles is difficult to ignore. Both civilizations share a remarkably similar urban model: precise geometric layouts, ceremonial plazas, astronomical alignments, and a deep relationship between architecture and the cosmos. They also demonstrate parallel agricultural mastery. The Maya brought stone to life, while the Amazonians gave life to the soil, two different approaches that served the same purpose of sustaining life across centuries. Above all, both cultures reveal an obsession with eternal cycles of rain, stars, death, and rebirth. It is as though each preserved fragments of a shared worldview, like shards of a shattered mirror still reflecting the same sky. But who were they? Did they vanish in the cataclysms that followed the last ice age? Or did their descendants retreat into the forests, carrying those memories and transforming them into two distinct identities, the Maya and Amazonia? Some scholars point to a forgotten Great Migration, while others believe in a tropical Atlantis, a civilization erased by ancient climate upheavals or celestial disasters. Whatever the truth, the uncanny similarities between them suggest that human history may not be a straight line, but a recurring spiral where knowledge is buried, lost, and rediscovered. Perhaps the Maya long-count calendar, with its immense astronomical cycles, was never meant as prophecy, but rather as a memory of worlds that once existed before our own. Today, both the Maya ruins and the Amazonian geoglyphs are reclaiming their stories through science. Each LiDAR scan is like lifting a corner of the Earth's memory. We are beginning to see that the jungle was never primitive. It was once alive, with order humming with mathematics, astronomy, and design. The trees that now swallow temples once grew beside human minds that measured the heavens, and the soil that nourishes life today was crafted by those who understood balance better than modern industry ever has. If there truly was a mother civilization, it may not have left behind monuments of stone or gold, but knowledge encoded in ecosystems. Knowledge of how to build without destroying, to expand without consuming. Perhaps that is the real legacy that unites Maya and Amazonia. Not kings, not empires, but the art of living with the planet. And maybe that is why their story is resurfacing now, in an age where humanity has forgotten this art. Could the ancient Maya and the people of the Amazon have been two branches of the same ancient root civilization, or merely two different paths leading to the same truth? Is the rainforest still hiding the cradle of a mother civilization whose heart once beat beneath its emerald canopy until the last buried city is unearthed? This question will continue to haunt humanity. Did civilization begin once or many times? And are we now remembering the very first? The Nile River, the lifeline of ancient Egyptian civilization, has long been seen as a symbol of permanence. For thousands of years, it nourished fertile lands, sustained humanity, and made possible one of the most radiant civilizations in history. Yet recent discoveries have forced scientists to question that assumption. Using ground-penetrating radar and advanced satellite imagery, an international research team has uncovered a buried branch of the ancient Nile, a vast river channel that once meandered through the land of the pyramids. They call it the Aramat branch, the branch of the pyramids. This discovery not only reshapes our understanding of ancient Egyptian geography, but also opens a profound mystery. How could such a massive river vanish completely from the surface, swallowed by the desert? What do you think happened to this ancient river? Could nature alone have buried such a massive waterway? Or is there something more we don't yet understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. According to data published in Nature Communications Earth and Environment, the Aramat branch once stretched more than 60 kilometers and reached widths of up to 700 meters, a true river rather than a mere canal. It lay west of the modern Nile, running parallel to the zone where dozens of famous pyramids from Giza to Saqqara to Dashur were constructed. Notably, most of the causeways of these pyramids point directly toward this ancient waterway, as if it served as a ceremonial or logistical harbor. This suggests that the Aramat branch was not merely a river, it was a religious and transport artery of the ancient empire, a lifeline through which millions of tons of limestone granite and even the souls of the dead were carried. Yet all those traces vanished beneath the sands, and only now, after millennia, have scientists retraced its hidden flow. The most baffling question surrounding this discovery is the reason for the river's disappearance. How could a river hundreds of meters wide, powerful enough to carry pyramid-building materials, simply evaporate from the Earth's surface? The answers, or rather the chain of hypotheses, reveal a complex story of geology and climate, where the slow, relentless forces of nature quietly redrew the map of Egypt. Researchers believe that over 4,000 years ago, toward the end of the Old Kingdom, the climate of northeastern Africa underwent dramatic change. A centuries-long drought, known as the 4.2 kilo-year event, swept through the region. Winds from the western desert blew waves of sand into the Nile Valley, gradually filling smaller tributaries. Meanwhile, the Nile's water level dropped drastically, leaving branches like Aramat without sufficient flow to survive. Over the centuries, the combined effect of wind, sand, and sediment slowly buried the riverbed until it was completely sealed, a subterranean river fossilized beneath the desert floor. Climate alone cannot fully explain the mystery. Some experts argue that geological movements also played a significant role. Over thousands of years, the Nile Delta and valley experienced tectonic tilting, subtle but enough to alter water flow. As the western lands gradually rose, the main Nile channel likely shifted eastward, abandoning the Aramat branch and cutting off its supply. Eventually, it dried out completely, leaving only layers of ancient clay and silt traces that modern ground-penetrating radar has finally brought to light. Curiously, the death of the Aramat branch was not sudden. Sediment cores reveal a slow weakening of the current over centuries, interrupted by short revivals, perhaps during rare rainy periods or local geomorphic shifts. This suggests that during the time the pyramids were being built, the ancient Egyptians still saw the river flowing. They might never have realized it was dying beneath their feet. As they ferried massive stones upon its waters, none could have imagined that centuries later the same river would be swallowed by sand, leaving their monuments isolated in the barren desert. A bolder hypothesis proposes that the drying of the Aramat branch directly contributed to the decline of Egypt's early dynasties. As the river disappeared, transport of heavy materials by boat became difficult. Ritual and agricultural zones nearby suffered severe disruption. The empire's irrigation systems faltered, harvests failed, and people were forced to migrate eastward toward the surviving Nile Channel. This ecological stress, coupled with climate collapse, may have helped trigger the fall of the Old Kingdom, one of the longest periods of crisis in ancient Egyptian history. Even with all these plausible theories, the mystery remains unsolved. Why did the river vanish without leaving visible traces? How could centuries of archaeological excavation around Giza and Saqqara miss it entirely? The answer lies in the relentless forces of nature. Desert winds piled up dunes over millennia, burying every sign of the river more than 10 meters below the surface. Only with the advent of modern radar and satellite imaging did scientists finally detect a long, soft, continuous band beneath the ground, the ghostly imprint of an ancient river. This discovery raises a larger question. Could there be other lost branches of the Nile still hidden beneath Egypt's sands? If a major river like Aramat could disappear so completely, smaller tributaries serving ancient settlements may have been buried forever. The Aramat find might be just the first chapter in rewriting Egypt's paleo-hydrological map in which the dead rivers could hold the keys to unlocking humanity's earliest engineering and cultural history. From an archaeological perspective, the Aramat branch may finally explain a long-standing puzzle: why are most pyramids clustered along the western desert rim rather than near today's Nile? For decades, scholars believed the West Bank was chosen for symbolic reasons, the land of the setting sun, the realm of the afterlife. Yet this discovery suggests a far more practical reason. Back then, this region wasn't a desert at all. It bordered a thriving river, ideal for transporting stone and performing funerary rites. The so-called valley temples at the base of the pyramids, long thought to be ceremonial entrances, may in fact have been ancient harbor docks where royal boats delivered pharaohs' bodies for burial on the desert plateau. Today, when we gaze upon the pyramids rising lonely from the sand, we see monuments of stone and mystery. But with the rediscovery of the lost river, the picture grows vivid once more. Thousands of years ago, each pyramid may have stood beside bustling docks, canals, and wooden ships drifting beneath the sun, a living world of water and labor, now buried under golden dust. The disappearance of the Aramat branch is more than a geological event. It is a metaphor for the fate of civilizations. It shows how nature reshapes history, how a slight shift in climate or terrain can topple entire empires. And it reminds us that every layer of desert sand hides more than soil. It hides forgotten chapters of our collective story. As modern science uncovers these lost rivers, we are not merely mapping ancient waterways, we are rediscovering humanity's enduring struggle to live in harmony with water, with nature, and with the ever-flowing current of time itself. Beneath the silent fields of Ukraine lies the ghost of a civilization older than the pyramids, a world that once burned with life, then vanished without a trace. There were no kings, no temples of stone, no written names carved into history, only circles of charred earth and shards of pottery whispering from the soil. Each fragment tells of a people who painted their world with spirals of mystery, who built vast circular cities long before Europe even dreamed of civilization. This was Trypillia, a name half erased by time, yet powerful enough to challenge everything we thought we knew about humanity's beginnings, a culture that rose in harmony with nature, flourished in peace, and then disappeared in fire, leaving behind not ruins, but questions that still echo through 7,000 years of silence. What do you think truly happened to the people of Trypillia? Why did such an advanced civilization simply vanish? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Trypillia was first uncovered in the late 19th century, when archaeologists stumbled upon vast layers of clay and pottery scattered across the fertile plains of Ukraine. What they initially assumed were small Neolithic villages soon revealed something extraordinary: entire settlements organized in precise concentric circles, each layer of houses curving perfectly around a central open space. That center, believed to be a ceremonial or communal plaza, suggested an advanced understanding of urban design far beyond its age. Some sites stretched over 400 hectares, containing thousands of uniform dwellings, enough to shelter 10,000 to 15,000 people, an unimaginable number for the 5th millennium BCE. There were no walls, no palaces, no signs of rulers, only symmetry, order, and balance. Trypillia was not just a cluster of villages. It was a planned metropolis, a vision of cooperation that appeared millennia before Rome, Athens, or even the first cities of Mesopotamia. What made Trypillia truly unique was not only its size, but its social structure, which seemed to defy the evolutionary logic of human civilization. There were no palaces, no fortresses, no weapons of war. Each house was nearly identical, built from clay and straw, painted in sacred hues of red, black, and white. There is no evidence of kings' classes or centralized power. Trypillia appears to have been a peaceful, egalitarian, and possibly matriarchal society, living in rhythm with nature and the cycles of the earth. One of the most haunting mysteries of Trypillia lies in its ritual of fire, an act both destructive and sacred. Archaeologists discovered that every few generations, entire settlements were deliberately burned to the ground. The people would carefully place their belongings inside pottery tools, grains, even figurines, and then set their homes ablaze, allowing the fire to consume everything. This was not war nor accident, but an intentional ceremony repeated over centuries. Some researchers believe it symbolized the death and rebirth of the land, a ritual to renew the balance between humans and nature. Others see it as a spiritual cleansing, the destruction of the old to invite new life. Whatever the meaning, the flames immortalized Trypillia's world. The intense heat turned clay walls into ceramic shells, freezing their culture in time. What remains today are the charred outlines of homes still whispering of a people who embraced fire, not as an end, but as a passage to eternity. From the ashes of their burned settlements, archaeologists unearthed thousands of ceramic masterpieces, each piece a silent page from Trypillia's unwritten story. Their pottery wasn't merely functional, it was art language and faith intertwined. The vessels were covered with intricate spirals, solar discs, and wave-like patterns that seemed to move when touched by light, as if carrying an inner rhythm. Many depicted scenes of birth fertility and the eternal cycle of life, suggesting that creation itself was sacred to them. Others bore abstract symbols that no one has ever decoded, markings that repeat with mathematical precision, almost like a written code. Some scholars now believe these motifs may represent Europe's earliest proto-writing system, a visual script that predates known alphabets by millennia. More remarkably, astronomers studying the designs found that certain symbols align with lunar phases, solstice cycles, and stellar constellations, hinting that Trypillia's art was also a cosmic map, a reflection of their effort to connect earthly life with the order of the heavens. In the ruins of their burned homes, archaeologists discovered thousands of clay figurines of women, rounded bellies, full breasts, sometimes pregnant. These were not queens or warriors, but representations of the mother goddess believed to rule fertility harvests and the living earth. The abundance of such figures suggests Trypillia was likely a matriarchal society where women embodied creativity and continuity. They were not only givers of life, but also keepers of knowledge and ritual, mediating between the human world and the sacred. Around 2750 BCE, the thriving world of Trypillia came to a sudden and silent end. Entire settlements that once pulsed with life were left empty, their circular cities turning to dust beneath the Ukrainian sun. There were no signs of battle, no weapons, no mass graves, only quiet abandonment. The mystery has tormented archaeologists for over a century. Some suggest a shift in climate may have dried the fertile plains, forcing the people to scatter in search of new lands. Others believe they were gradually absorbed by Indo-European tribes, moving south, their culture dissolving rather than dying. Yet some traces hint at something deeper, perhaps a spiritual decision, a final ritual of departure in harmony with their belief in renewal. Trypillia did not collapse in chaos. It faded with purpose, leaving behind symbols, art, and architecture that quietly echoed through the DNA of later European civilizations. This question has haunted archaeologists for decades. Trypillia appeared too early, too advanced, and too isolated to have developed naturally from local Stone Age cultures. There is no clear transitional phase from hunter-gatherer societies. They emerged almost fully formed with urban planning, sophisticated art, and early metallurgy. Some scholars, such as Maria Gimbutas, argue that Trypillia was part of Old Europe, a prehistoric super-civilization, stretching from the Balkans to the Dnipro River, later erased by Indo-European invasions. She believed the Trypillians descended from an ancient earth-worshipping culture devoted to peace and creation. Others think influences may have come from the south, from Anatolia, where the Catalhoyuk civilization once flourished with remarkably similar rituals. More daring theories suggest Trypillia was the offspring of a lost civilization, perhaps one that once thrived around the Black Sea before being drowned by post-Ice Age floods. The resemblance between Trypillian motifs and symbols found in Blombos Cave, South Africa, or the ancient Danube sites suggests this might not have been a local phenomenon at all, but a fragment of a forgotten global network of prehistoric knowledge. Some researchers even believe the circular layout of Trypillian cities was based on natural energy patterns akin to vortex fields understood by other ancient cultures. The empty center may have served as a communal ritual space, a focal point for connecting with cosmic forces. Could they have known something profound about the harmony between humans and the Earth, something we are only now beginning to rediscover? As archaeologists dig deeper, Trypillia only grows more mysterious. Each discovery answers one question but opens another. How did a Stone Age society master planning astronomy and art, then burn its own cities to ashes? From above, the ancient circles of Trypillia still scar the Ukrainian plains like echoes of memory. They remind us that human history may have begun far earlier and been far stranger than we imagine. Somewhere beneath the charred soil may still rest the secret of who truly built Trypillia and whether they were really human, like us.